The manhwa starts by showing us a palace inside of the heavenly demon cult. We hear an older man saying that he's sorry that the medicine won't work. He thought it would because it's very rare. The cult heir says that energy deviation isn't something that can be solved so easily. It's not the doctor's fault, but his own. Because of him being a half-assed pupil. His lower core was broken from birth. If you pair that with a body that can't hold internal ki, he poured all of his efforts into mystic arts and rose to become the cult heir of the heavenly demon cult. It was all a way for him to repay the debt to his master. But alas, he has not achieved that yet. He says that the price medicine of Hebei was useless. He wonders where he could find something better. We then hear a different man telling the cult heir it's been a while, making him stop in his tracks. He asks if he's been well while he, who we learn is the vice cult leader, was absent. The heir says that it's been a long time, and we learn that the vice cult leader is named Chun Hejin. The heir says that his tour around their land must have taken him quite a while. Hejin says as the cult leader and cult heir are both unable to carry out their current duties, it is his obligation to get things done for the prosperity of the cult. The heir says that he sees and he's really grateful for his efforts, but he says it in a very cold tone. Back in his room, the heir says there's no way that Snake just went on a trip to see how the people are doing. He sets his cup down and says he needs to stop Hejin before he does anything stupid, but then he feels a sharp pain in his chest. He says that he did not expect this, to think he'd aim for him the moment he's in his own chamber. It makes sense now why this drink was so damn good. As he starts to crush the cup, he asks the people in the rafters above if they would like a drink as well, saying he feels bad for drinking it all on his own. One of them yell attack, and they start to leap down from the ceiling. The heir says even if they did bring him this prized liquor, they're making a grave mistake for finding him in his own chambers. We see 4 of them plunge their fists straight through his chest, but only for them to have been tricked by one of his illusion arts. The heir is now across the room, saying if they wanted to kill him in his own area, they should have prepared much more, as we see a purple aura from his eyes. They quickly redirect towards him, and he says that he just warned them while sticking his hand out. As he clenches his fist, he says they are not enough. Spiked chains begin to fly around the room, impaling his assailants, killing them on the spot. We see more people appear behind, and he says that it seems they are appearing now that the stage has been set. He says that as his nephew, he's quite disappointed in this shit, as it's none other than Hejin and the other elders who look startled. Hejin says that the crane's red beak is a poison said to melt an entire ox with a single pinch, and he wonders how the heir is still laughing after drinking a cup of it, calling him a monster. With all the corpses around, the heir says if his body was in better condition, he would have been sure to leave a hole in his head, and that this is quite unfortunate. Hejin says that he too shares disappointment that he couldn't accomplish his dreams. He says there's no way he'll just stand by and let this orphan who can't even learn martial arts be his next leader. The superiors have even given him permission to do this. As he nods to a man behind him, they all immediately start to circle the heir. He says that his elders are quite easy to scare, and asks if they really plan on ganging up on him after making him drink poison. Hejin tells him to keep trying to act tough, saying if he had just fulfilled his role as the cult heir, this wouldn't have happened. But the heir tells him to cut the bullshit, asking who's behind this. Hejin asks what he's talking about and looks shocked, saying that this was a decision that he and the elders made. The heir says that he knows they lack the balls to do this, and then starts naming out names about who it could be, only for him to gain a reaction. He says that it's probably an order from outside his divine cult, and that the other elders and Hejin have sold the cult off to kill him, asking if his master ended up the way he is now because of his actions as well. Hejin begins to imbue his hand with frost, asking him how dare he accuse him of doing something to his own master. He starts to dash directly towards the heir, who says that after seeing his response, it seems that he's right. As he gets hit by the attack, the heir says that this is the cost of his master trusting someone he always believed in, and that they finally got stabbed in the back. Hejin's attack sends Wunhui flying to the other side of the room as he grabs him by the throat. He says no matter how much he dislikes him, they still train under the same master, and he is still the acting leader of the cult, so he will end his life with his own hands. The heir laughs, asking if he's already planned all of this, saying that he should just drop the facade, and that his lack of wits is exactly why he's a puppet in the first place. We finally learn the main character's name, which is Yun Wunhui, and he says that the way he's acting must mean he doesn't want to die an easy death. Wunhui spits up a lot of blood, and Hejin tells not to worry, saying he will correct the mistakes and ensure the cult prospers. Wunhui lets out a little snicker, and immediately bursts into full-blown laughter, which sends chills down the spines of all of the elders. As his aura starts to be released even more, he says they've endured him for so long, yet they still don't know. If they wanted to kill him, they should have remembered one small detail. Hejin says that now that his time to die has come, it seems like he won't stop running his mouth, but Woonhui reaches into his robe and pulls something out, which surprises Hejin, as he recognizes it as the demon dragon sword. Hejin says that he'd dare cause trouble even in his final moments, and reaches for the sword asking if he really thought he'd let him pull off one of his tricks. The tip of the handle starts to glow purple as it releases aura that sends Hejin flying backwards. Hejin asks if he's really gathered this much mystic power already. Woonhui says that he has put all of the mystic power he has into the sword, which contains the will of the first heavenly demon, and while he was gathering all the energy he needed to defend against his laughable attacks, this is what he has been aiming for. The other elders start to panic, saying they need to quickly utilize their internal energy and block the attack. As the sword starts to flow into the air, Woonhui tells them that it's too late as they are destined to die here. The sword itself begins to use an ability called the soul-combusting hell flame art. It immediately starts to exude a pressure so heavy that it seems as if the light in the room itself has been sapped. Some of the elders are sent flying backwards, almost as if they disintegrated, and Hejin watches as it's his turn, and he screams out Woonhui's name. Outside of the palace, it's silent, only immediately for it to appear as if space-time itself was warping, and a giant explosion follows, destroying the entirety of the palace, leaving only the ground it stood on. We see Woonhui sitting where the palace once stood, saying no matter how pitiful his life might have been, he didn't expect he'd die like this. And that the snow flowing around him is making him remnants of when he was younger. We see some kids kicking the hell out of him, and they start to make fun of him because he can see ghosts. One of them says that if he tells him once more that he's carrying an evil spirit, he'll make sure he has a terrible time. They even start to make fun of how his lower core is broken, and they say that if they were him, they would have offed themselves a long time ago. Woonhui looks at a rock on the ground, and he reaches for it, picking it up, saying that he simply said what he saw, but all he got was hatred. He refused to just sit down and take all the shit that the world was trying to give him. He leaps off the ground, dashing at the man who just beat him up, and we see blood flying. Woonhui says they didn't really have the temper to stay put. We only hear them yelling, and Woonhui says that they don't know when to give up. Just like the spirits, we see them floating in front of him, and he asks for them to piss off. We then hear somebody tell Woonhui that he has special eyes, and he gets afraid, wondering how long this dude's been here since he couldn't even feel his presence. Judging based on his expensive looking clothes, and an even more expensive looking sword, this place is far from the forest path as well, so he must have come for him specifically. Woonhui starts to laugh, but in a sad tone, saying he must be interested in his cursed eyes, and he can take them if he wants. As he's used to a life where receiving hatred and disrespect is so natural, the person asks if they can really just have them, and Woonhui says that based on their appearance, they look like a master of martial arts, so what would resisting even accomplish? He says he doesn't know if these eyes can act as a medicine for their powers or not, but they can pull them out, eat them, or do whatever they need to. The person quickly puts their coat around Woonhui, saying those eyes are no curse, rather, they are a blessing. Some people like him are born with a blessed upper energy core, or with a special streak in their soul, and those children always end up doing great things. Woonhui says the words sounded so sweet, he would have definitely just thought they were lies. The person continues, saying that he has the potential to become more special than anyone else in the world, but Woonhui was already falling for it because that was the first time he ever felt warmth in his entire life. The person asked if he would follow him, and Woonhui said yes, and this is how he met his master, the heavenly demon. When the heavenly demon asked if he had a name, Woonhui says no. The heavenly demon says that to commemorate the moment he met him, he would like to give him the name Woonhui, which gave him a new reason to live. We see Woonhui sitting there, saying he did whatever he could to help his master, but because of his damned body, his master fell into a state of energy deviation, and accepting death here would be too pitiful. Even though his body is about to keel over, no matter what he does, his body is done for, so there is only one way out of this. He slams his hands into the ground as a golden energy starts to emit from it. He says that he is using the forbidden art of Zoroastrianism, called the primordial divine wheel of reincarnation, which will allow him to overcome death by transferring his soul to another body. Even if it does succeed, he is destined to live a short life due to the body's rejection of the soul. He is using the remaining mystic energy from the fragments of the demon dragon sword to activate this art, and now he will just leave it up to the heavens. He looks over at his master's palace, and begs that he hold on. As the yellow aura starts to bloom into a lotus flower, it opens up, shooting a beam to the sky, and Woonhui says once more he hopes his master stays safe until he returns. His vision goes completely black until he hears some woman yapping at him. She says that as the son of a concubine, he should continue to keep low. He says his whole body is numb and tingling, and waking up to the sound of screeching is just the worst. He then jolts awake, asking if the wheel of reincarnation really succeeded, and we hear the woman call him Tang Woonhui, asking if he's listening, telling him to get up off the damn floor. Woonhui stands up, saying it's ironic that he still has the same first name as his last body. The woman, on the other hand, says that she's been emphasizing this since earlier. She raises her beating stick into the air, asking how dare he not respond to her, but he stops her mid-swing, saying that her breath reeks, asking if she could face away when talking to him, and even calls her an old hag. She looks annoyed, and asks how dare he refuse her teachings and even insult her, and then she slams the door, telling him not to even dream of exiting until he understands his mistakes. Woonhui sits on the bed, sighing out of relief, saying finally he can have some peace and quiet. According to the remaining memories of this body, that woman is this child's stepmother, and that the primordial wheel of reincarnation only works on bodies that have just died or are about to die. Even if this child was not her real son, he can't believe that she beat him to death. He thought his old life was pitiful, but the Woonhui in this body might match it. He says that his body is barely trained and is actually in pretty bad health, but this body has something that his last one lacked. He reveals that it has a lower energy core. He says if he can train his lower core to learn martial arts, and on top of the mystic arts he learned using his upper core, and if he can use the power of his eyes to control the dead, he'll turn it into something that the world has never seen or is ready for. And it's not an if, rather it's a necessity. Only then will he be able to protect his master and show the bastards who backstabbed him and messed with his cult that they picked the wrong damn fight. Woonhui starts to explain that the Sichuan Tang clan is one of Murum's 6 great clans, and the ruler of Sichuan. To their west, there is Tibet, where the Potala Palace is, and Ganghai, where the Kunlun sect is. To their south, there are the Heavenly Dragon Temple, the Shenkong sect, and the 5 poison sects. To their north is the front line of the Central Plains that opposes the Heavenly Demon cult. There stands the group that leads the Tang clan and the vanguard called the Tempest Squad. The leader of the Tempest Squad, who is also known as the Tempest Swordsman, is Tang Ho San. With the Tempest Squad, he founded a branch of the Tang clan called the 9 Dragons Division. The Tang Patriarch, the Dark Supreme, Tang Moon Hyuk, had entrusted the division to Tang Ho San, whom he had deep faith in. Ho San had 3 heirs. 2 were children he had with Nam Gun San Yong, his legal wife. They were his first child, Tang Qiu Jin, and his third child, Tang Yu Chang. Comparatively, his second child was born as a result of sleeping with a servant, a mistake he made while drunk, and that is who he is reincarnated as. While he may be an illegitimate child, he is still the son of the branch family patriarch, which means he is an heir candidate. We hear a servant barking at him, saying that he needs to go beg for forgiveness, as the matriarch said not to bring in any food to the White Pavilion, and that it looks like they will all be starving too. Woonhui sighs, saying he can't believe even a servant is looking down on him, so he smacks the dude across the face, sending him flying across the room. The dude asks what the hell he thinks he's doing since he was being so kind by giving him advice. He says if he continues acting this way, he can't help but fight him back, but when he looks up, he sees Woonhui glaring down at him, and Woonhui smacks him again, making the dude just start to say that if he keeps hitting him, he'll get into trouble. Woonhui doesn't care and repeats this over and over until the dude is in tears, saying that he's sorry. After a bit of slapping the hell out of him, Woonhui tells Hyung Sam that he trusts that he will do the right thing since he's his mother's hometown friend. Hopefully, he understands how he feels. Hyung Sam says of course he does, and he will never forget the kindness he and the second madam have shown him, and he'll work even harder to serve them both. Woonhui then starts smiling, saying that surely he'll go get what he wants now, and Hyung Sam starts to cry, saying he'll go prepare it immediately, and he bows and heads out the door instantly. Woonhui sighs, saying he can't believe his hand is stinging just from hitting him a few times, and he wonders just how weak the original Woonhui was, saying not only is the body weak, but he also has no allies within the clan, and it's partly due to the matriarch bullying him. It's difficult to move around within the Tang clan at this rate. All he can do is accumulate inner energy, then show what he is capable of. Although the problem is the Tang clan energy that's in this body. Since his master's heavenly demon 9 slashes is a demonic art, he can't use it with the cultivation technique of an orthodox faction. However, there must be many cultists within the heavenly demon divine cult who came from the Tang clan and have been around for 1,000 years. This will put a lot of stress on his upper meridian since his body has not been trained, So taking the memories of putting it into the upper meridian that was innately big, he'll copy it from reality into the imaginary space and manifest it there. As he opens his eyes, he says that this space that he is witnessing is purely from his own manifestation, which is part of the heavenly demon divine cult called the millennia-old secret archive. Fortunately, it seems that using the divine wheel of reincarnation didn't cause him to lose much of his memories. In his current situation, the most suitable cultivation method for him would be the venom dragon cultivation technique. After the martial group of the Tang clan that specializes in poison was chased out of the clan, they joined the cult. This is the cultivation technique that was made to allow them to learn the poison arts of the demonic cult. Instead of using demonic energy, they used poison energy and the cultivation techniques of the Tang clan as the base to practice the martial arts of the cult. While the Tang clan fights against the cult, there are groups within the Orthodox faction that use poison in a unique manner. So, if he uses the demonic arts via the venom dragon technique, then no one would suspect him of a single thing. The issue would be that he needs to go through excruciating pain in order to embrace that poisonous energy. To replenish the poison, he also needs to consume poison that is of a higher level. However, now that he has used his upper meridian, his cursed eyes have finally been opened. We see him smiling and asking somebody across the room how long they plan on staring at him for. He says while he was known as handsome in his previous life, he will still get a little embarrassed if they stare too long. As we see, he is talking to Hajin and the other elders. Hajin barks at him, saying everybody always said he was crazy, but still, he dares subject him, the vice leader of the cult, into such a state. All the other elders also say that he needs to release the chains, and he won't be able to handle their wrath. Woonhui says seeing all of them react like that makes him extremely happy. They ask if he has such a shitty personality that it stuck even with death. Woonhui grabs their chains, saying if there were plenty to kill him, they should have prepared themselves for the consequences. As he pulls Hajin to the floor, he says they already knew what ability he had. As when he looks up at Woonhui, he sees an ominous demon behind him. Hajin asks if this is really the power of the Phantom King. Woonhui says if he remains in this state, he won't be able to even reincarnate, and surely, they will start to get impatient. Hajin hits the ground, saying what he wants is probably information. If he wants all the information he has, Woonhui cuts him off, saying he doesn't need it. Hajin is surprised, and Woonhui says he has many people who will give him that information. He puts his hand directly over Hajin's head, and everything blinks out for Hajin as he starts to get sucked up into the sky. He screams only for him to turn into an orb in Woonhui's hand as he says it's called a wraith sphere. It is filled with extreme resentment of the dead and is exponentially more vicious than the most extreme venom, and now it will become his nutrition. As we still hear Hajin yelling from inside of the orb, Woonhui eats it in front of all the elders, surprising them. He starts to feel excruciating pain in his body, causing everything to tense up, and they say there's no way he's still standing after eating that. One of the other dudes asks the rest if they don't remember that they just gave him the red beet poison and he still shrugged that shit off. Woonhui says that now that Hajin has become nutrition for his venom dragon technique, it's time for the rest of them to make a choice, asking if they will tell him obediently or will they get devoured. He turns them all into orbs and starts swirling them around in his hands, asking if they are really just following the orders of an organization known as the Association, even though they are elders of the heavenly demonic divine cult. They plead to him, saying that they're not lying, and Woonhui says that it's an organization that doesn't even have a name, but the problem lies with its members. One of the elders says they refuse to reveal anything about themselves, and they hope that Woonhui believes them. Woonhui says that the divine cult of the heavenly demon was an evil cult that believed their lord to be the god incarnate. These elders who revered the heavenly demon as their god came to eliminate him, the junior heavenly demon, since he was ruining their god's reputation. At the very least, they feared the members of the society more than they feared their master, the god they worshipped. Woonhui says he thought they had simply fallen for the schemes of the orthodox or unorthodox factions. Then he says the word divergence. There were humans who ascended while attempting to climb the tower standing above the skies. They were absolutes, seen as immortals who could be considered natural disasters in their own right. The real masterminds far exceeded his expectations. He downs all of the orbs, saying there's no time to sit back and slowly adapt the poison to his body, and he needs to speed this up immediately. It then jumps to 2 whole months later in the Grand Matriarch's room. She asks if they're certain that they haven't been serving food to that filthy boy. Hyung Sam asks how he could ever go against her orders, and she asks how he's still fine then, as she thought he would give up in 3 days and grovel at her feet for mercy. There was even a rumor going around the estate that she killed him and replaced him with a double. The clan head is even going to visit soon, So how can she ever face him if he hears of this false rumor? She sighs, asking Hyung Sam if he brought the documents Woon-hui asked for. He says there were reports regarding the current state of the martial realm, especially in respects to the outer regions. She says that he's never been interested in those before, wondering how he could change so much in a mere 2 months, then wonders if maybe he found a new supporter. Despite being a filthy bastard, he still has the branch family head's blood. If he impresses the clan head when he comes to visit, the boy's position within the clan will solidify. It wouldn't surprise her if a dirty little pest tried to manipulate him to their advantage. She slams her table, saying only Yu Chang can catch the clan head's eye, asking how dare they try to use that filthy bastard. Someone then knocks on the door, saying that Yu Chang has arrived, and she asks if he already finished his seclusion training. Hyung Sam says that he's going to take his leave now, and she tells him to get out of her sight and report immediately if that bastard tries to do something again. Yu Chang then enters, asking his mother if she's been well, and she says that she has, telling him to take a seat, asking if he achieved his goal. He says that he may still improve, but he successfully obtained Shadow Key. She says well done, and she knew he could do it. Yu Chang says that he heard stories about the bastard on his way here, asking if he really is yet to reflect and beg for mercy after his transgression against her. She sighs, saying indeed, and just thinking about it makes her head hurt, asking what he is up to. He says based on the circumstances, he believes someone is supporting him from the shadows. His mother asks if he really believes so as well, and Yu Chang says that there is no way someone with minimal internal energy can survive with no food or water for 2 months, and that he believes someone is sneaking in some elixirs for him to consume every night. His mother says that's also her conclusion, but she has no clue which imbecile is trying to use that bastard. Yu Chang says that is why he will recommend that Woon-hui participates in the festival when the head arrives. Because if Woon-hui gets a big opportunity, then his backer will have no choice but to help him out immensely. His mother says that's a good idea, and she's sure they'll try to feed him more elixirs to improve his abilities in the meantime, and then the backer will reveal themselves to take the credit for changing the boy. Yu Chang says exactly, and once they know the identity, they can take them down. She wonders what will happen if Woon-hui makes a mistake, saying the clan head will disapprove of the branch family for not keeping him in line. Yu Chang says that no matter how much the backer helps him, there is no way Woon-hui can achieve much, and if he makes a mistake or causes an accident, he will step in and prevent it as his brother. Back to Woon-hui's room, we see a purple aura leaving his room as they continue saying that no matter how much help Woon-hui will receive, there is no way a boy who's barely learned the common Tang clan key cultivation technique can reach a high enough state to accomplish anything within such a short time. Oh boy, are they in for a rude awakening? And then jumps back to Woon-hui talking to Hyung Sam as Hyung Sam says that he has heard that the cult has been in a civil war for the past 6 years. Woon-hui explains that 2 months ago he had asked Hyung Sam to bring him the recent happenings in the martial realm. He anticipated that some time would have passed when he used the Wheel of Reincarnation, but this went beyond his expectations. After hearing that it was 6 years, he started to feel a bit of despair. Hyung Sam says that the heavenly demon of the time went missing. Woon-hui asks what he means by missing, and Hyung Sam asks if that's a problem or something, saying that it was said to be a wicked scheme planned by the cult for a long time, and they were all afraid of when and where the heavenly demon would appear. So now Woon-hui has no idea if his master is alive or not. Even though there's not much, he does have the slightest amount of hope. He wants nothing more than to run all the way to the Tian Shan Mountains right now, but he is lacking in strength, information, and money. Especially information, as we see him training his martial arts. He says those traitors will be using all sorts of methods to look for their master as well, and if they haven't been able to find him yet, he needs information that is at least as good as theirs. It also happens that the 9 Dragons division will be visited by the Tang clan's Dark Sovereign Son. Who we talked about before, he is the head of the Sichuan Tang clan and one of the 10 Grand Masters under heaven, the Dark Sovereign Tang Moonhyuk. There's a rumor that the Dark Sovereign will form a new special martial unit, and if he can join that unit and utilize the information network of the Tang clan, his chances of finding his master will definitely increase. A little spider waddles up into frame and says that it seems he's about to achieve a breakthrough with the 12 Fierce Tiger Steps. The 12 Fierce Tiger Steps are one of the best basic techniques passed down among vagabonds. It allows the practitioner to use their entire body as a weapon. Woon-hui says this is the result he obtained after strengthening his body through extreme muscle training, and while also cleaning his pressure points and meridians by practicing the Venom Dragon art and eating the ghost orbs. Woon-hui asks if he's going to have to eat Bigu pills again, and the little spider says that it can't be helped, as security is too tight. We see it's actually one of the elders possessing the spider. Woon-hui warns him that he'll turn him into an orb if he doesn't behave. The elder begs him, saying that he's done his best. Woon-hui says okay, and asks if he's learned anything new, like where the Dark Sovereign is now. Spidey says that he doesn't know where exactly, but that Yu Chong has returned after finishing his seclusion training. Woon-hui says it makes sense he'd return since the Dark Sovereign will be visiting soon, asking if that's all the information. Spidey then says that he saw him scheming with his mother against him. Woon-hui asks him what Yu Chong and San Young have planned, telling him to spill the beans. After being explained, Woon-hui says the recap: they just want to screw him over when the Dark Sovereign visits, and they think that someone is supporting him from the shadows. He says they're literally just writing the story by themselves, and more importantly, a recommendation for the special unit is great. He scoffs, saying that he wondered what they were going to do, but now they're just laying it all out for him, though he doesn't like their intentions to humiliate him. Hyung Sam then knocks on the door, and Woon-hui tells him to enter. He enters with some medicine, and Woon-hui asks what it is, only for Hyung Sam to tell him that it's something that the matriarch is giving to him. He says that he thought she told him not to give any food, and Hyung Sam says that she said he must have reflected enough and has given him this to recover his energy since he has suffered all this time. Woon-hui sighs, saying this is such an obvious ploy, telling him to leave it on the side. Hyung Sam insists that he needs to watch him drink it, and Woon-hui sighs, but immediately chugs it, saying that if what he heard before is true, then this must be infused with madness poison, whilst not likely to work against him as he has learned the venom. While he's drinking it, he starts noting all the stuff in it, saying that it has white mountain herb, soul-burning resin, and only a small quantity of madness poison, and she's even put 5 essence powder into it, even though it's a precious thing. If you only drink it once or twice, its effect would be closer to energy recovery and improving inner energy, but if you drink it often, it becomes a poison for the mind gate. Woon-hui says that was well within his expectations, but it also has toxic cinnabar. Spidey starts to get pissed, asking if she's gone mad that she's fed him that. Woon-hui tells him to shut up as it's okay, and he needs to find out who her sorcerer is. Spidey says alright and immediately jumps out the window, and Woon-hui sets the bowl back down for Hyung Sam, wondering if her plan was to drive him mad, and then put a spell on him to turn him into a puppet. He's curious about how competent the sorcerer she employed is. He tells Hyung Sam that he's drank it all, asking why he's still here. Hyung Sam says that the martial arts instructor that she sent for him is waiting outside as well. Woon-hui asks what he means by martial arts instructor, and as soon as he heads out, he's introduced to his martial arts instructor named Tang Gon. Gon says that he'll only be here for a short bit, but he'll be in his care. Woon-hui says this is the Fierce Gale Warrior, and while the Wild Wind Squad was active, he was one of the top members of the Elite Squad, and a martial master who ranked within the top 5 of the 9 Dragons branch family. But now he's just an old man who's been living like a hobo because he doesn't want to take another job. Gon says that he's been told to look after him for just 4 days before the clan head arrives. Woon-hui says he must have only accepted him because he didn't want to help out with the event. And that San Yong's intentions are obvious. By making a master like Gon his instructor, she can tell others that she has taken care of her son, then she'll use sorcery to make him humiliate himself in front of the clan head. Woon-hui then asks Gon what he's going to teach him, and he says that there is a martial art that San Yong has selected for him specifically. Woon-hui asks what it is, and Gon says he's not going to show it twice, so pay attention. Immediately, Gon starts dashing around the entire training area, leaving something akin to afterimages. Woon-hui says it's a step technique that lets him move like a shadow, and he looks around following his movements, and Gon tells him that it's called Shadow Step. Woon-hui asks if this is the same one that Yu Chong uses a lot, and Gon says yes, as it's the foundation to his shadow key. Woon-hui sighs, saying that she's planning on making him look bad compared to her son. Gon tells him that Shadow Step emphasizes stealthy movement and is effective when combined with assassination weapons and poison arts, and since he has made imprints on the ground, Woon-hui only needs to follow them. Woon-hui says he expects no less of the Fierce Gale Warrior, and Gon says that since he's taught him the Shadow Step, he should do his best to copy it, and if he doesn't get it, he should go ask the righteous Windhall Chief instead of him. Woon-hui tells him that he's mastered it, and Gon asks what he means, and Woon-hui repeats himself saying he's already mastered the technique. Gon scratches his head, saying he may not know this because he hasn't learned martial arts before, but Shadow Step is a pretty difficult stepping technique. Even the members of the Wild Wind Squad took around 10 days for each form. Even geniuses like himself took 5 days, so it'll take at least 3 months for someone like Woon-hui to understand the basics. Woon-hui cringes at him calling himself a genius, and he says that he guesses it's probably like that in his mind. Gon says that if he understands, then to continue practicing diligently, but Woon Hui says it again that he's already mastered it. Gaon starts to get annoyed, saying that it's not something he can master by looking at it once, and Woon Hui asks if he wants to make a bet, 30 silver coins, to see if he's mastered Shadow Step or not. Of course, the homeless guy immediately jumps at the money, and Woon Hui says he hears that the monthly wage of the Righteous Wind Hall is around 10 silver coins, and it's probably only a fun bet when it's worth around 3 months of his salary. Gaon clears his throat, saying that Shadow Step is a valuable martial art of the Tang clan that holds its soul, and betting on learning it is absurd. Woon Hui laughs a little bit and holds it back, asking him if he's a coward. Gaon gets annoyed, but Woon Hui walks away, saying he must be, and that the fierce Gale warrior said it took him 5 days for him to learn it, and he's a genius, but for a man to back down like this, it's quite pathetic. Gaon tells him to wait, saying that he's remarkably good at provoking people, and he'll accept the money as payment for him disrespecting martial arts. Woon Hui says that since he's accepted it, it means he can't go back on his words. Gaon then tells him to prove it, and Woon Hui immediately dashes behind him before he can even react, and Gaon asks how, but Woon Hui smiles, asking him what he was planning on drinking today as he's holding his pouch, saying that it's pretty heavy. Gaon starts to sweat nervously, saying that this is impossible. Gaon tells Woon Hui this is cheating, asking how he learned the Shadow Step. Woon Hui says he learned it just now, asking if Gaon thinks he had a chance to learn martial arts ahead of time. Gaon says that's true, but asks how Woon Hui learned it just from seeing it once. Woon Hui says he didn't realize Gaon was the petty type who doesn't know how to admit defeat, asking if he wants to try it again. Gaon says he's not going to try it again. Woon Hui says he can just try a different martial art as it's too boring doing it with just one. Then Woon Hui starts to mock him again, asking if he's at such a big disadvantage because he's actually a genius. Woon Hui says given how puny the stakes are, Gaon's self-confidence must be equally as small. Gaon tells him to wait as he's going to the bank right now to get money. Woon Hui's laughing internally, saying this is too free. As Gaon's walking away, he says he knows tons of more secret techniques far more difficult than the Shadow Step, and he would love to see Woon Hui try to keep up. Woon Hui says that this must be confusing for Gaon. Not only did someone who never practiced martial arts manage to master it after seeing it once, but now his money bag is also gone as well. Woon Hui says that he may not have mastered any martial arts before, but the people he fought against as the Junior Lord were the elite of the elite among the martial arts world, and their names were very well known. Remembering the forms of the basics is also very simple for him. Low-key don't know if it said this ghost's name, but just gonna call him Goatee. He asks him how he did just now, and if it was a good job. Woon Hui says yes, no matter how great he is, the difference in their levels made it impossible for him to steal Gaon's bag by himself, but luckily Goatee just needed to flick it a little bit, which gave Woon Hui the chance to snatch it. Now it's time for him to completely absorb all of Gaon's martial arts and all of his money. 4 hours later, we see Woon Hui performing a whole myriad of techniques such as the soul-tracking soaring butterfly, the wild wind body technique, and even the wild wind 12 rotation. Gaon's just watching as his life finances are going down the drain, and the ghosts say he may be a heretic, but they pity him as he had the misfortune of getting caught up with the Junior Lord. They say they're reminded of how they came to be ghosts. Gaon drops to the ground, and Woon Hui asks if he has any more. Gaon says he can't borrow any money from the bank. Woon Hui says that's too bad and suggests they make one more bet. Gaon starts crying, saying he's already completely broke, and Woon Hui tells him to hear him out. They should go for one more round, and he'll put all of the money on the line. Gaon starts to shake, asking if Woon Hui's trying to sell him off as a slave. Woon Hui says no, but he still knows one important martial art that he won't be able to follow easily, the wild wind dance. It strikes a nerve in Gaon, and Woon Hui wonders what's wrong as Gaon starts to release his aura. Gaon says while this may not be true for other martial arts, the wild wind dance is the soul of the wild wind squad. That Woon Hui is even considering trying to bet with the wild wind dance on the line dishonors the squad, which is the foundation of the 9 Dragons division, so Woon Hui should refrain from doing so in the future. Woon Hui says Gaon normally comes off as a playboy, but he really is the fierce Gale warrior. Woon Hui asks if Gaon really believes he has no right to learn the wild wind dance. Gaon says Woon Hui does have the right since he is a disciple of the family. Since Gaon has already shown it to the first young lady and the third young master, there should be no issue with him showing Woon Hui as well. Woon Hui says the rights he is referring to do not have to do with lineage, asking whether from Gaon's point of view, Woon Hui has that capability. Gaon wonders what Woon Hui's talking about, and Woon Hui yells out his name, asking if he thinks he has the talent to become a wild wind. Specifically, Woon Hui's asking whether or not he has the right to pick up the legacy of the Wild Wind Squad. Gon starts to shudder thinking about the legacy because after their last gruesome defeat, the Wild Wind Squad ceased to exist. But Gon would love to become a Wild Wind member just once more. That's how for 20 years he buried the legacy of the Wild Wind in his heart, and who would have imagined that he would be hearing those words from the weakest of the successors. However, Gon says while the words touch his heart, Woonhui is also the one who spoke about using the Wild Wind dance in a bet, which is too difficult for him to accept. Woonhui says this is frustrating, and if the moment he met Gon 4 hours ago he had asked him to teach the Wild Wind dance because he wished to inherit the Wild Wind, would Gon have quietly taught him? Even when he showed Woonhui the shadow step, it's not like he struggled with that decision. Gon looks away, saying he has no response to that. He says that Woonhui provoked him in order to prove his worth. He heard that Woonhui had changed, but he sees that Woonhui was just hiding his strength and cleverness. Woonhui says it's something like that. Gon says the martial arts he taught Woonhui, the shadow step included, were all ones that the young master Woonhui he knew would have found difficult. He should have needed an amount of inner energy that 2 months was not enough for, but he sees Woonhui's been collecting inner energy beneath the matriarch's gaze. Now that the Dark Sovereign is to visit, Woonhui is going to reveal the claws he had hidden. Woonhui says that's right while sweating nervously. Gon says that it is a truly devious backstabbing plot that tricks even family members. Woonhui says he realizes that's a compliment coming from the Tang clan, but it still feels awkward to hear. The elders say that it seems they have finally noticed his true potential, and there is no response other than to admire the demonstration. Woonhui says these fossils just sound like they want to become food already. Woonhui asks Gon if that means he's going to teach him. The elders continue mocking him, saying that there's no way Gon will not be swayed by the young lord's words. Woonhui says he's already decided they're definitely going to be turned into food. Gon says fine, he will teach him the Wild Wind dance. Woonhui turns, saying that he formally requests to be taught by the martial arts instructor Tang Gon. Gon is a little taken aback but smirks and introduces himself formally as well, saying that he accepts the request. Unlike the preceding techniques, this one is going to prove very difficult. Woonhui says he would like to change the stakes, and Gon asks why he's still betting. Woonhui says he wants to bet whether or not he'll master the Wild Wind dance in 1 day, and the loser will buy the winner a meal and drinks. Gon agrees and sighs, saying it sounds good, but he believes he's going to win this time. Telling Woonhui to watch carefully, Gon jumps off the floor. Gon says the previous members of the Wild Wind Squad had promised not to become involved with the family's succession. This is why even if Woonhui inherits the Wild Wind, they cannot support him as successor. However, he will be able to tell others that he has made a good drinking buddy, someone who can walk the path of the Wild Wind together with them, a new member of the Wild Wind. As we see Gon demonstrating the technique, it lives up to its name, sending out violent wind all about. Only immediately, it jumps to Gon looking defeated. He says it does not matter that he lost the bet, as it can only be a blessing for the family if Woonhui is this outstanding. However, good drinking buddy his ass. This is way more than one meal as Woonhui is eating everything under the sun. The innkeeper walks over to Gon, asking if he needs anything else, and Gon says to add some alcohol, as there's no way he can handle this sober. Woonhui asks if he's an alcoholic, saying maybe they should have gone to the Dragon Lord Pavilion instead. Gon says Woonhui's only saying that because he knows how expensive the place is. In the first place, this is a good enough spot as it is the best food in the area. Woonhui says it does seem that way. Gon starts chugging a drink, saying even if it's a bit expensive, he wanted to buy a good one and have a great time. He didn't know Woonhui would order a whole week's worth of food. Woonhui says that going to a high-end inn like the Dragon Lord Pavilion wouldn't align with his plans anyhow. As there are a large number of inns like this one on the main street, thanks to the confinement handed down by the matriarch, he had to be patient for 2 months, and he can no longer delay it. He leaves some kind of mark under the desk. The elder recognizes it as the mystic skill for contacting the demon-worshipping Divine Fire sect and asks if that's what Woonhui came here for. Woonhui says that he needs to tell those who are still in the pit of despair that he, the junior heavenly demon, still exists. Spidey is sitting up in a tree, saying it's been 10 days without any suspicious activity, and he wonders how much longer he needs to keep watch. But then something catches his eye as he spots the Quangcheng sect uniform, and he wonders why someone from the Tang family is wearing that, only for him to immediately recognize it as the first young lady, Q Jin. He says that since she's the daughter of Sanyong, there's bound to be some scheming if they meet. The mention of the word daughter makes him catch some feelings, and he says that he hopes that child is safe and sound, but he immediately locks back in, saying it isn't the time, and he'll get on the junior lord's good side and ask for a favor. He attaches himself to the side of the wall, and we hear Sanyong asking Kyujin if she intends to push a dagger into her mother's heart. Spidey is confused, and Kyujin says that it would still be nothing compared to the number of times Sanyong has hurt Woonhui, and this time she's ordered for his confinement and fasting. Sanyong tells her not to worry about that, and that right now someone has his back and is secretly providing for him. We see Kyujin shaking with anger, and Sanyong tells her not to worry and just focus on the Dark Sovereign's visit. Kyujin slams the table, asking if Sanyong thinks that's any reason to treat Woonhui like this, and she's sure Sanyong didn't even know someone was backing him, and that she was only trying to kill him. Sanyong wonders why Kyujin is making such a fuss over a mere bastard, yet she's her own flesh and blood. Kyujin says that all Sanyong ever says is bastard this, bastard that, and she hasn't changed one bit. Kyujin says she has no choice but to reveal the truth. Sanyong pleads, telling her to wait as Kyujin storms out of the building. Sanyong says that Kyujin's righteousness has been her weak point ever since she was little, but it's gotten worse after entering the Kwangcheng sect. She wonders how Kyujin will receive the position of successor if she's acting this way. Spidey wonders how to report this, because all he can tell is the family is dysfunctional as hell. Sanyong stands up, yelling, saying it's all that bastard's fault, and there's no need to wait until the Dark Sovereign's visit. She asks if someone's outside, saying she's going to head out. Spidey says that if she's going out of the house right now, it must mean she's going to visit a sorcerer. Back at the training area, Woonhui says it's been 10 days since he engraved the summoning order mark on the tavern, but there's no reaction at all. Even within this county, the demon-worshipping Divine Fire sect contacts should have had deployment information. Either the contact withdrew, or they can't act freely because of some restrictions. It's clear that the situation is not good for either side, and if he doesn't hurry up and become stronger, it's going to get worse. Gon says that Woonhui did a good job, and he sees that Woonhui is good at imitating the weapon arts as well. Woonhui asks if Gon is upset, and Gon says for a person of the Tang clan to learn weapon arts before the assassination and poison arts, he just doesn't understand it. Woonhui says that these Tang clan bastards are so narrow-minded. Woonhui says the dispersing flower staff technique is also a martial art of the Tang clan, and that's why it has been separated into parts like this. Gon is surprised that Woonhui's already noticed, and Woonhui asks if he's not Gon's amazing student who learns 10 things when he's taught one, pointing to himself pridefully. Gon looks grossed out, saying bro needs humility. Woonhui says that because many sects try to express their understanding of martial arts in specific forms, their movements of a signature technique often end up unnecessarily complex. However, the Tang clan is famous for their assassination techniques and poison arts, two martial arts that make use of tools. Therefore, the Tang clan's martial arts have broken their signature technique into parts, so no matter what tools are used, they could move to the next one. While the Tang clan's martial arts are far from flashy, they make up for it in practicality. Of course, the Tang clan system is the basis for successful assassination and effective poison usage. But his master's Heavenly Demon's 9 swords, which he wishes to learn, is also a signature technique that is broken into parts. The Tang clan's weapon art system may come in useful when he mixes it, and it could allow him to use his master's technique, which he can only dream of, more effectively. He's sorry to Gon, but the assassination techniques and poison arts will have to wait. Gon just wonders what Woonhui is scheming and tells him that Kyujin has arrived. Woonhui starts to recall the original body's memories and that his older sister is the only person who ever treated him like real family. She was firmly engraved in his residual thoughts, and even after taking over the body, he's received multiple letters from her. They were all full of worries and affection, and he hopes that Kyujin will have an okay relationship with him. However, he plans to become mortal enemies with Sanyong, and he wonders if Kyujin will stay on her side after that. Gon says that today Woonhui is to go around greeting the elders in the clan, and Gon will return tomorrow. Woonhui sighs, saying he guesses so, and that it's going to be difficult to do this, and he should hurry up with his business before his older sister arrives. Gon asks if it's the thing Woonhui said he was going to start today, and Woonhui asks what Gon means by start, saying it's already completed. It jumps to Yuchong asking Hyung Sam if he has stuck to the pill creation method for the last 10 days. Hyung Sam says yes, he is absolutely correct, and Yuchong throws him a bag of money. Hyung Sam thanks him and quickly runs off. Yuchong then calls out to someone named Mu Yong, who asks if he only has to take care of Woonhui. Yuchong says yes. Since Woonhui has been consuming madness poison for 10 days straight, it's sure to have completely filled his system. Even if Woonhui's backer notices and tries to detoxify him, it will be difficult to fully recover before the Dark Sovereign's visit. Yuchong says they sent Gon as an instructor for appearance's sake, but he's putting a surprising amount of effort into teaching Woonhui. Even Gon took 8 whole days to learn the Shadow Steps forms. No matter how much Woonhui tries to train, Yu Chong is sure Woonhui will barely be able to learn one form before the Dark Sovereign's visit. The true issue is Woonhui's older sister. Yu Chong heard that as soon as she got home, she got into a huge fight with San Yang, and there may be a setback in Yu Chong's current plans. Once she turns 30, she should officially become the successor of the 9 Dragons branch family. She has too much sympathy to become the Tang clan's branch family leader. She didn't learn the Tang clan's martial arts and immediately left for the Quangcheng sect. Despite all that, she became the 9 Dragon branch family's successor, and Yu Chong starts to smile looking to the sky, saying it should have been him. Someone then enters, saying that a letter has arrived from the White Pavilion, and Yu Chong says to enter. The dude says that it's actually a letter from Woonhui, but he seems a little nervous. Yu Chong asks what's wrong, tells him to hand over the letter, and it's pretty much just Woonhui cursing him out, saying let's throw hands. Yu Chong starts to hold back his anger, asking if the madness poison is already taking effect, and says it could be a plan set by Woonhui's backer. It could be a contraption that releases poison causing him to lose himself in anger once the letter is opened, which is something easily available within their clan. But then Yu Chong sees there actually is no special contraption on the inside of the letter. It's just Woonhui saying that he wishes to reforge the awkward relationship they have as brothers, and he wants to release any pent-up bad blood like martial artists through a spar. Yu Chong says Woonhui is obviously trying to pull some trick, and he needs to turn Woonhui into a stepping stone in front of the Dark Sovereign and use that as the foundation for his meteoric rise. Yu Chong tells his budget Hyung Sam that he has received the letter, and he's grateful for Woonhui's suggestion, but he wants to reject the duel. An hour later, Woonhui replies back, pretty much just calling him a small fry side character. Yu Chong laughs angrily, saying Woonhui must be in a hurry, and he'll likely continue to send things, so Yu Chong orders them to start rejecting the letters from now on. The next morning, when Yu Chong wakes up, he sees the words chicken shit on the wall in front of him. He tells someone to go out to the White Pavilion and tell Woonhui to head to the second training ground tomorrow at noon, and Yu Chong will gladly shove Woonhui's head into the shit pit. The next day at noon, we see Hyung Sam telling Woonhui about it, and Woonhui wonders why Yu Chong played so hard to get in the first place. God asks how Woonhui provoked Yu Chong but tells him he doesn't have to answer if he doesn't want to. Woonhui says he has no idea how he did it. Woonhui snickers, saying there's no way his brother will become patriarch with such little patience, and he asks Gon if he's going to try stopping him. Gon asks why he would, saying that it's about to be a very entertaining fight. Woonhui says he's going to make sure he just beats Yu Chong half to death, because he doesn't want to kill him. We get a flashback to Q Jin asking Yu Chong if he's really planning to duel Woonhui, wondering why he would do such a thing. Yu Chong tells her that Woonhui provoked him first, so if she has a problem with that, she should go find Woonhui instead. She's surprised that her brother would provoke Yu Chong first. That is what led us here to see her standing outside the White Pavilion, but she wonders what's going on with all this ghost and death ki emanating from the pavilion. As she heads inside, she's sure that this is exactly what it is, as there are multiple instances of death and poison ki staining the area in many places. It's like the dwelling of a martial artist that's gone to the outer path. She then feels a chill as there is ghost ki directly behind her. She quickly draws her blade and swings it behind her, aiming straight for Woonhui's neck. He manages to stop the blade, and she's surprised, asking if he is really Woonhui. He tells her that her greeting is a little violent, and she quickly apologizes, saying that she did try to stop it but didn't expect her attack to get stopped in the first place. Woonhui says that she just had to come in when he was doing his inner energy cultivation using the Venom Dragon Essence art, and he noticed her way too late. His plans will go bad if his current poison and inner energy levels are exposed to Yu Chong, and if San Yang sent her here before his fight with Yu Chong, then this is going to be real bad. She says that she was worried because of what she heard their mother did to him, but she's really glad to see he's doing well, and she starts to smile. Woonhui says it's the same expression his master would give off, and he can tell she's truly worried about him. He says that it looks like she wasn't sent by the matriarch, and his head starts to hurt. She then drops her blade and immediately comments on the energy coming from him, asking him if he has fallen to the outer path. He asks if she's talking about the poisonous energy that he's learned, and she quickly covers her nose because of the aura. He tells her that it's cursed poison. In truth, it's a compound energy made of mystic power and poison ki made to look like cursed poison. It will be difficult to hide the mystic power and ghost ki of his Reaper's sight in the future. He needed a similar source to divert their suspicions. She asks why he's using cursed poison, and he sighs, saying that this is the only poison he can use if he wants to use poison ki without the support of the clan. She looks suspicious, and he says that he can tell she's not convinced. As a member of the Tang clan, pursuing strength is so natural that he would use anything that is available to him. He then widens his stance, telling her that if she's still dissatisfied even with that, then she should try to stop him by overpowering him. He starts to exude his aura, and she's taken aback, saying that he really has changed a lot. She quickly says that he's definitely different from before, and there's a reason why Mother and Yu Chong are wary of him, and he even knows how to say such stimulating things as well. He's immediately surprised by this, saying that her energy and killing intent are very familiar, and she starts to laugh, saying that he really is beyond her expectations, and she starts to blush. He says it's exactly as he thought, it's that energy, the seed of the divergent spiritual root, and among them, it had to be the blue ghost face root. He says there were many rumors in the past, and he wonders how Q Jin, the first successor of the family, became a disciple of the Quangcheng sect. He says it is a spiritual root that practically has a requirement of becoming a divergent, one that imparts ultimate talent to its possessor. However, the spiritual root is a root of the spirit, as its name suggests. That is why the spiritual root grows within the cultivation of the soul. This is something that aligns a lot of principles with the training methods of the Quangcheng sect, which puts emphasis on cultivating the mind. Most importantly, the blue ghost face root is a spiritual root that thrives on conflict. Mixed with the martial principle of the Tang clan, which is might makes right, she'll become a death demon that doesn't care about methods or consequences. He says he doesn't think she's in a position to comment on his energy when hers is in such a state. She immediately sheathes her blade and apologizes, saying she forgot why she came here for a moment, and she's sorry for drawing her blade and interrupting his training. He says she retracted the killing intent of the blue ghost face root so easily. Training from the Quangcheng sect will have played a part in it, but it seems that Q Jin is someone with very high self-control. He asks if she likes tea, and we see her drinking it, saying it's gas. She says she's enjoyed tea often in Quangcheng, but this is new. He says he procured it especially from Thousand Eye. She seems really happy, saying she didn't know he was so knowledgeable about tea. She reaches into a bag she brought, saying she brought this for him as it's candy sold in Mishan. She says last time he said he liked it a lot, but Woonhui says he doesn't really like sweet things, but he'll show his gratitude in the original Woonhui's place. She seems really happy that he enjoys it, but in reality, Woonhui says he can't get used to it. He can't believe that this is the same person who exuded a killing intent just a few minutes ago. He asks her what she's here for and tries to tell her that if she's here to stop his duel, but she cuts him off, saying that was one of the reasons, but she came here to apologize to him first for all the things that Mother and Yu Chong have been doing to him all this time. He says that he hopes she knows that her apology won't make him forgive them. She says that she understands, but she still wanted to do it anyway and that she really is very sorry. Woonhui sighs, saying even if she does that, he won't take back the duel. She says that she thought he was being pressured into it, so she wanted to stop him. However, it looks like Yu Chong is actually the one being swept up by him. But she asks if it will be okay, saying although his energy just now is great, Yu Chong is very strong, and she's heard that he's been preparing something else against him as well. Woonhui says she must know that they are planning something but not specifically what, and he drinks his tea, saying that he's prepared as well. Since they have fed him the madness poison, they must think that he'll be destroyed the moment they activate the sorcery. Q Jin tells him that even if he defeats Yu Chong, he can't ignore the power that Yu Chong and Sanyong hold in the clan. She says that if Yu Chong loses, their mother will do whatever it takes to conceal that fact. Woonhui laughs, saying she worries too much, and the duel is happening because it's what he wants, and she should come and watch tomorrow at the second martial stage. She's a little surprised but says sure. It then jumps to the next day as it's time for the fight. We see people selling food all over to the people who came to spectate the fight, as there's a whole crowd, and they're even betting on who is going to win and within how many strikes. Q Jin is surprised and asks Woonhui if this is what he was aiming for. He says yes, saying if it is like this, even the matriarch will have a hard time denying the outcome. Also, Yu Chong, who he looks at sitting over on the side, seems to have quite the stage fright, and as the older brother, Woonhui plans to help him out. As it gets closer to the time of the fight, Gon leans over the rail, saying that a lot of people have gathered. We are introduced to a couple of members of the Righteous Wind Hall named Tae and Jen. Tae says it seems like the young master has already decided to cause a scene. Gon says he didn't expect to see both of them here too. Tae tells him that they work here, and with as many people gathered to watch the duel between the two successors, it's only right to try and keep things under control and prevent accidents. Gon says that aside, he wonders what they think about who's going to win. Tae says that even if he helped Woonhui, it's only been 10 days. Jen also adds that he has no doubt Yuchong will win. Gon says that everybody's probably here thinking that, but they shouldn't forget that it was actually Woonhui who arranged the duel. Surely it makes them curious as to what he's planning. Back to Yuchong, he asks his budget Hyung Sam if that's everything. Hyung Sam says yes, and he heard Woonhui spread the word about the duel and even had the fierce Gale warriors open the gates for everybody to watch. Yuchong says that at best, this will only be a match where he puts that illegitimate dog in his place, yet it looks like all of the merchants of the county are here to watch too. Woonhui starts to talk to him through some sound transmission, asking what's got him so worked up, calling him little brother, and asking if he's nervous because the matriarch isn't with him, calling him a mama's boy. Then he tells him that he should go and bring his mother as his big brother will wait for him. Yuchong starts to get pissed, saying Woonhui should quit before his crudeness rubs off on him. In a mocking tone, Woonhui says to stop it, adding that mama's boy will only listen to kind and polite words. Yuchong shakes with anger, yelling for Woonhui to shut the hell up. Woonhui continues mocking him in a baby's voice, saying, "I told you to stop." This snaps something in Yuchong, and he yells, calling Woonhui an illegitimate mutt. He immediately leaps to the platform, telling Woonhui to come out. The spectators are surprised that Yuchong came up first when Woonhui was the one who challenged him. Woonhui slowly heads up the stairs, saying Yuchong is too easy to provoke and rile up, and he's only making things easier for him. They have their WWE standoff. Woonhui formally introduces himself, saying he's from the White Pavilion. He admits he might not have a title, and he's just a nobody, but he hopes they have a good match. Yuchong starts to laugh, asking why Woonhui is behaving himself, and whether he's nervous now that he's actually on stage. Kyujin sighs after watching, thinking that while she taught Woonhui how to use sound telepathy, Yuchong should have kept his cool. She overhears some of the merchants saying Woonhui's showing respect, but Yuchong isn't. Kyujin notes that with this act, Woonhui has flipped public opinion, making it seem like he's the one accepting the challenge. However, in the end, the result of the duel is what matters, and while Woonhui seems confident, Yuchong is also known as the Dark Shadow Genius and is a prominent rising talent in the clan. Yuchong gets in Woonhui's face, saying those taunts are probably all he has, and Woonhui asks if he's only here to talk. This makes Yuchong even angrier. As he reaches into his uniform, he says he doesn't know what tricks Woonhui is hiding, but things won't go his way. Yuchong throws a smoke bomb to the ground. All of the spectators wonder why he would use that, saying now they can't see anything. Even Woonhui says he didn't think Yuchong would use a smokescreen bomb, but it makes sense as using Shadow Ki in an open space like this without any cover wasn't the best idea to begin with. Yuchong tries to attack from behind, but he strikes an afterimage as Woonhui uses Shadow Step. Woonhui asks if Yuchong forgot Gon taught him this technique. Yuchong immediately turns, trying to attack Woonhui again, but Woonhui dashes past him, saying it seems like Yuchong sure did forget. Yuchong says he didn't expect Woonhui to have already mastered it, but even if his mother thinks otherwise, he still has his father's blood. He claims Shadow Step is just a technique that complements Shadow Ki. As Yuchong gets into his stance, he says he's going to show Woonhui the true meaning of Shadow Ki. He leans to his side at an insane speed and starts dashing around the entire arena like Bellamy from One Piece. Woonhui says this is a technique that melts one's presence into the shadows, making it impossible to detect them by sound or sight. He can see why Yuchong is called the Shadow Genius, but he won't let that stop him. Yuchong strikes at another afterimage, annoyed as he goes back for more, but every strike only hits a shadowy wisp which repeats for 3 attacks. Woonhui says Yuchong can't deceive his Reaper's sight, and his murderous intent is way too obvious. He could still sense him even without relying on it. Tae is surprised to see Woonhui using Shadow Step at that level and notes Yuchong's improved control over Shadow Ki, likely thanks to his secluded training. Jen wonders if Woonhui plans to dodge until the smoke clears, but Tae sighs, saying if Woonhui doesn't have a finishing move, it's just wasting time. Gon laughs, saying he taught Woonhui something for that finishing blow. Tae and Jen are surprised, asking if Gon went beyond what the Grand Matriarch asked of him. Gon wonders why they have so little faith in him, and they say surely he's aware they know him better than anyone else. As the fog settles and sunlight pours into the fight, Yuchong hits another shadow clone, and insults Woonhui calling him an illegitimate rat. He says it's getting harder to use Shadow Ki as the smokescreen dissipates. Yuchong dashes around again, starting to generate his own afterimages, saying that as long as Woonhui is in this ring, he won't be able to dodge this. Now there are multiple images of him float in the air. He uses the downpour of pear blossom needles, specifically the Heavenly Lady scattering flowers. Kyujin sees this and realizes Yu Chong is trying to kill Woonhui. As the needles get closer, Woonhui doesn't even move, smiling instead. He says he was going to play with Yu Chong a bit more, but it's time to end the charade. All the needles fly off in different directions as if the wind itself protects Woonhui, creating a barrier. The audience is surprised, asking what's with the wind, but Kyujin recognizes it as the wild wind. She recalls the stance Woonhui took yesterday. While she wasn't able to get a better look due to the poison ghost key, she now knows the technique he has learned is none other than the wild wind dance. Yu Chong is surprised as he recognizes it too, and says that he refuses to believe this, saying neither he nor Kyujin could master it, asking how Woonhui did. Woonhui laughs, saying it's thanks to a certain someone for assigning him a really good martial instructor. He crouches down, saying he guesses he's going to have to show him some gratitude, as he dashes off the ground, immediately closing the gap in front of Yu Chong. Before Yu Chong can even react, Woonhui is already opening his palm, coming in with an attack from the wild wind dance. He hits him straight in the gut, and we learn the name of the attack is called the Wild Wind Explosion, and it launches Yu Chong all the way out of the arena into a nearby wall, as we hear a loud crash. We see him slumped over in front of the wall, as he has even dented it. The audience is surprised that Yu Chong lost to Woonhui in a single strike. For him to do that is such a crazy upset, nobody expected anything of this caliber. Tae asks Gon how Woonhui knew the wild wind dance, and Woonhui says he told them he had a finishing move. Tae says not to brush it off like that, and Gon says he's right, and he won't, asking what they think and if that looks different from the wind they used to follow. Tae asks if he's really trying to say that Woonhui has the same wind talent as the branch head. Gon laughs, saying though it could still use some work, he managed to create a wild wind in just 10 days, and that's the kind of talent he wields. It might be too early to make a decision, but keeping tabs on him is worthwhile at least, asking if they agree. It says besides, he doesn't know if they were just empty words, but he claimed that he would inherit the Wild Wind Squad. So how can he not have high expectations? Gon then realizes he's still shrouded in the wind, and wonders what he's doing, as Woonhui calls out to Kyujin, asking if she would also like to have a duel, saying even though her little brother may be lacking, he would appreciate it. The audience are confused who is talking to, and then they recognize her as Kyujin, and they say that now that they actually are looking at her, she must have left Ching Cheng in time for the Dark Sovereign's visit, and they didn't recognize her because it's been so long. They say that they wonder if this means they'll get to see a duel between Woonhui with his mastery of the Wild Wind Dance, and the greatest prodigy of the Sichuan clan, Kyujin. They start to cheer her on, saying this will be on a completely different level than the previous one, and they sure are lucky, and they start chanting her name, which makes her feel uncomfortable. Jen says that it seems like things are heating up, and Tae asks Gon if he thinks that Woonhui stands a chance. Gon says that he shouldn't be skilled enough to face her, and he wonders what he's thinking. Defeating Yu Chong will be enough to increase his standing in the branch family, but if he can beat Kyujin, he could even aim to be the successor. But if he loses, he'll just make his sister the star of today's event, and even Kyujin should know that this is a bad move on his part, so she sits there wondering what he's thinking, saying if nobody else was around, she wouldn't care about saving face, but with eyes on them, it would be a stain on the clan's reputation for her to shy away. We hear the blue ghost face Root asking why she's being so considerate, saying he's the one who picked the fight first, and says that they know she's itching for a fight, she should just follow her instincts. She covers her ears, shakes her head, saying no, saying that Woonhui's been abused for too long, and she needs to prioritize him over the reputation of the clan. Woonhui then asks her what she has her thinking so hard, saying it's just a friendly duel, and that she's worrying too much, as she can just enjoy it. That immediately makes her realize something, as she leaps past him, saying that she's been holding back so much. Everybody's glad that she actually entered the stage, and we see her pivot, turning around, and she formally introduces herself, saying that she has received the teaching of Monk Woho for 5 years, and the one energy of heaven and earth, but she says that the people of the martial realm have graced her with the title of Thousand Petal Beauty, and she hopes it'll be an honorable duel. Woonhui does pretty much the same thing she just did, telling her not to go easy on him, that everybody starts cheering, saying now the duel is official. He says that she seems happy, and she says that it has been a while, as we see her actually blushing, and she says she hasn't been this excited in forever. He says that she seems a little too excited, and she asks how she could not be, as her dear Woonhui wants to have a duel with his big sister, as we see her sheath hit the ground. Woonhui says well then, and starts to get into his stance, asking her if she is ready. She says of course, as we see the blue ghost face root starting to take hold, and she starts the charge in, telling him that it's time to get started. He says he hoped that she would give him at least a 3-second head start, and he uses another technique from the Wild Wind dance called the Cutting North Winds technique, blocking her strike, creating a shockwave. As we see him doing it with his bare hand, she says this is the same thing he used yesterday to block her sword. She then distances herself, saying that this makes her think that now she can swing as hard as she wants. She firmly plants her foot into the ground, dashing forward, and starts laughing, asking why she should give him a head start in the first place, saying he told her not to go easy on him. Woonhui says that she's fast, and in that case, he needs to try to throw her off as he uses the shadow afterimage, splitting himself into 3. She says that she can't believe he's using Yu Chong's technique, even though he just saw it, and that he's blowing her away, but she immediately cuts through the other images, heading straight towards Woonhui, saying that it is still too half-baked, as we see him having to block the attack. It sends him backwards a little bit, but he manages to regain his footing, asking when the swordsmanship of Ching Cheng was so violent. She says that this isn't the Ching Cheng swordsmanship, but since he's hiding that energy he showed yesterday, she's going to keep her secrets too, as she starts to laugh. He thinks about something, and then says in that case he'll show her, as he starts to activate his aura, as we see a purplish hue start to form off of him as he's using the Venom Dragon's essence art, called the Ghost Dragon Release. We see her eyes light up, and she says this is what she wanted, as that poison and ghost key is so desirable. She launches some wind attacks towards him, and then readies her blade, and in the reflection, we can see the blue ghost face root enjoying the hell out of this, as it seems as if it's possessing her, as it says that it has been itching to fight against this key. Woonhui says that the atmosphere has completely changed now. The killing intent of the blue ghost face root has been bound by the clear energies of the Ching Cheng sword, and oddly enough, she reminds him of a demon wearing the clothes of a maiden. Since he's been given the first hit, he shouldn't hold back, and he'll control the flow by starting off with a strong attack. He punches forward, but she sidesteps it, recognizing it as the wild wind explosion that defeated Yu Chong, saying it's much stronger than before. She immediately counters, as we see a blade coming for Woonhui's eyes. He barely ducks underneath it as it cuts some of his hair, and he says that it was too obvious. The movements of the wild wind dance are too wide, and he should be careful about that whenever he fights someone stronger than him. He thanks her for the lesson, saying that the Wild Wind Dance is a one-hit lethal martial art that boasts explosive momentum and fits with the supreme techniques of the Tang clan, but one-hit lethal techniques only work on those of a similar level. Woonhui puts his hands up, ready to block in case she goes for a follow-up attack, but she doesn't. He says in that case he needs a martial art that fits for continuous exchanges, as he gets ready to use the 12 fierce tiger steps, and that he plans to imbue the wild winds into this. Of course, Kyujin immediately recognizes the stance change and is surprised he learned that as well. While they're trading blow for blow, Woonhui says the greatest advantage to the wild wind dance is its explosive propulsion. If he uses the propulsion of the wild wind for the rotational movements of the 12 fierce tiger steps, it will allow him to do everything more explosively. We see him jump straight over her slash, she look in scary. He comes down from above with a flying axe kick, which she backsteps, causing him to smash the ground instead. He says he needs to go even faster than this, as he starts to use the wild wind dance to propel himself forward. She says she understands he's trying to connect the flow of the chained attacks, but he should expect his opponent will strike back when they have the distance. She uses the sword of discharge lightning of extreme light. We see the attack starting to hit Woonhui all over, as he can only block so much of it. He says he was too reckless by charging her, as he continuously keeps getting scraped by the attacks. He ducks into her next attack, narrowly escaping death, leaving her surprised, but she immediately says that this is now a real fight, telling him to entertain her more, as they are yet again trading blow for blow in the middle of the stage. The crowd starts to go wild. One of the spectators notices something, as it's none other than the budget Hyang Sam, as Yu Chong is awake, asking what's going on. Yu Chong says on top of him losing, he didn't expect Woonhui to be able to keep up with Kyujin as well. He asks if his mother has returned, but budget Hyang Sam says no. He says he knows Kyujin won't lose, but the longer this takes, the higher that bastard's worth will increase. As he hears the crowd starting to chant for Woonhui, he says, and although it won't happen, if somehow Kyujin does lose, it would lead to the worst case scenario, and he begs for anything but that. Yu Chong's fist comes straight into contact with her blade, and he knocks it backwards up into the air. He says this is his chance. As he goes in to take advantage of the opening, it seems he was a bit careless, as Kyujin's knee flies straight in, hitting him in the chin, and she says he's focusing on the sword too much. He says he didn't expect this, as kicking techniques don't belong to the Ching Cheng sect, and she asks if he's that confused, saying although she's learning under their guidance, she's learned the martial arts of the Tang clan until just 5 years ago. Woonhui says that the Ching Cheng's honest strikes and the Tang clan's striking techniques that aim for weak points which can seem as dishonest are two opposite martial arts but are aligned perfectly for some reason, and that this must be the true power of the blue ghost face root. As he comes in for a kick to her head, she ducks underneath it and immediately closes the distance, getting behind him by utilizing shadow step. He narrowly avoids getting his head lobbed off, but again loses some hair and distances himself, saying his mouth feels hot, and his heartbeat is pounding throughout his entire body, and this is how it feels to actually use martial arts and fight somebody. Kyujin tells him that he's pretty interesting, and he asks what she means. She says the fact that he can't escape the strict forms of martial arts and his movements make him seem like a beginner, but the way he reads his opponent's moves and avoids them is as sensitive as that of an old master who has fought over 100 battles. He laughs, asking if that's really the case, saying that now he understands how he moves for her. With his original body, which had no inner energy, he needed to survive amongst the peak martial artists who could kill civilians with a single hit, and reading his opponent's intentions and dodging their attacks was the battle strategy he honed for decades to survive and win. But after he gained inner energy, he forgot about those important things, and when he used the dark arts, he didn't use them because he was lacking in the basics of the mystic arts. And he starts to smirk, saying that won't change for martial arts either. She starts to get excited since he's seemingly different, and says that's a great look, as it looks like he's thought of something to try. She jumps through the air, twirling as if she was dancing, saying that she can't wait to see what her precious Woonhui came up with. Now that she's in his face, she tells him to go ahead and show her. He starts to read her intentions, saying that she's not aiming for his vitals, as it's in the blue ghost face root's nature to enjoy a duel as long as possible, and combined with Kyujin's way of holding back, it's created carelessness. As we see him preparing his hand for an attack, he says he's thankful for her kindness, but that doesn't mean he won't use this opportunity, as he uses the splitting tiger's claw, sending her flying backwards. But she seems a bit disappointed, saying that it's not a bad attack, but this is still the same. But then she realizes something, as she's not really flying back as far as she should, as the wind itself is stopping her, because the wind that she deflected with her attack just now is being gathered in front of Woonhui and restricting her movements. She starts to laugh, asking if he's already become this proficient controlling the wind. Woonhui rears his fist back, readying for the finishing blow, and Kyujin realizes that this is actually dangerous. She puts her sword up to block the attack, but the attack is so powerful, as soon as it comes into contact with her blade, there is an extreme shockwave unlike anything else they've seen today, shaking the entirety of the arena and the ground around them. Gon and his boys, and even every one of the participants, Yu Chong included, can't believe what they just witnessed. And Woonhui even strikes a cool-ass pose afterwards, then he raises up and looks over towards Kyujin. It goes back to Gon and his boys watching the match, and they immediately turn at him, confused, and he asks what they want. Then they wonder if Kyujin is okay. He asks if he didn't see that. Gon says even though Woonhui has far exceeded their expectations, what they were actually all surprised by was the light they just witnessed. As we see something forming around where Kyujin was standing, Woonhui asks her if she doesn't think that was a bit too cheap. She's surprised that he saw, saying that she wanted to keep it hidden until he brought it out. We see her smiling once again, saying that she guesses it can't be helped. Now she's been found out. She starts to exude a different energy than we've seen before, which we learn is actually sword energy, as she has finally reached the threshold of the peak stage. Yu Chong is super excited, saying that he knew he could believe in his sister, and now with this, Woonhui has no way of winning. Kyujin says that as he already knows, she can't drag things out any longer now that this has been brought out. He says he knows that dragging things out with someone of a lower level is seen as rude. She says it's too bad though, as she wanted to have some more fun, and she asks if she can see what he's hiding as well. Woonhui says that as she said, this duel will end with the next exchange. Although his cutting north wind technique blocked her attack just now, it's not going to be able to block a Ching Cheng sword strike with sword energy, and he can't afford to show his dark arts, so he only has one card left to play. She starts to laugh again, saying it looks like he's thought of something to try, and he asks if it really looks that way. She says yes, because right now it looks like his heart is racing, as even he has a smile on his face, which confuses him. He says he might have gotten a bit excited, and being cornered like this made him realize he's crazy about martial arts. She says that's a strange thing to say, and he asks what she means. She says that people like that who are so crazy about martial arts are what they call martial artists, asking if she's wrong. He realizes that it was actually so simple, and he starts to laugh, saying he understands. He was so absorbed in rushing to master martial arts after being reborn, but that was not the type of martial artist that he envied in the past. The emotion he felt while competing with her, whether it was to see how the martial arts he mastered played out, or how those martial arts fared against an opponent, it was the desire to rise up and win. This is the feeling he wanted from becoming a martial artist. She said it looks like he's had enough time to catch his breath, asking if she can attack, and he tells her to go for it. She dashes off the ground extremely fast. As we see him preparing something, she tightens her grip on her blade, raising into the air, imbuing sword energy into it, about to strike down. We see Woonhui preparing a Kamehameha, saying as expected of her energy. Then he'll use his own final strike that has the most destructive power among all of the movements in the Wild Wind dance. From there he'll mix in Ghost Ki and concentrate it. He stretches his hand out, readying his technique as they both collide with one another. We learn it's called the Booming Wild Cannon, as the collision from their aura actually sends bits of the arena flying through the air. Woonhui starts to get pushed back, and he wonders if it's not enough against somebody who's almost at the peak. The sword energy starts to actually split around his attack, and he says that he needs to clear his head of these trivial thoughts because he's being pushed back. Whether his strike will land or not, it's not as simple as that. The remnants from her attack go behind him, absolutely shattering even more of the arena. The pressure alone makes Yu Chong almost fall over, and he says that he's upset that a gap has grown between his and his sister's skills. There's no way that Woonhui survived a hit from that attack unscathed. Then he starts to see a purple aura in the middle of the smoke from the arena, and says there's no way. This is the moment Woonhui has been aiming for. As we see, her sword is pretty much out of sword energy, and it looks like it's about to crack. He says this was the moment when even she's caught off guard, because that is indeed what's happening as we see the crack on the sword expanding even more. He completely shatters it, dashing past her, sending parts of her blade through the air. He says it was inevitable because once the sword energy left, it only became a normal sword. His hand starts to shake, and he says that his arm has been paralyzed. But in a fight, the winner has normally decided the moment a sword breaks, but it's not over yet. As we see him readying aura into his feet now, he says that because it's Kyujin, she's the wielder of the blue ghost face root, as we see her turning to smile. He also starts to smile as well, saying that he knows she won't be stopped by a mere broken sword, but of course, it's the same for him. He makes the first move, leaping off the ground, soaring into the air, saying that he's going to put all of his remaining strength into this final strike. He starts to rotate his body for a kick while using the Wild Wind dance to propel himself, and it's called the Demonic Wind Hammer. Kyujin is absolutely loving every minute of this, saying that he's the best. She then starts to imbue her feet as well with aura, lowering herself to the ground. She leaps off using her own kicking technique called the Rising Dragon Kick Ascent to the heavens. Gon and his boys realize that they need to get down there and stop this before they collide with one another, but then they immediately tense up because, as we see, a shadowy figure leap into the middle of both of their kicks, stopping them. He says that he believes this is enough for playing around, leaving them both surprised. The man took that effortlessly and asks if they were thinking of greeting the family head from sick beds. Kyujin immediately greets him as the family head, but Woonhui hesitates for a second and says that this must be his father, but he does the same thing she does and greets him. We are finally introduced to Tang Hosen. Dumpling tells him that he must be careful, and Goatee says that he thought he would have gotten weaker after the Wild Wind Squad was disbanded, but he can't believe he's accomplished this much. But Baldy is just scared. Woonhui says that he can also tell, even if he specializes in leading large organizations, he is still the leader of the Tang Clan's Special Martial Unit, and he thought the Wild Wind Squad's leader would only be as strong as the elders of the Heavenly Demon Cult, but seeing him now, he's much stronger than that, and he's not certain he could have defeated him in his past life. His father tells him that his gaze shows dissatisfaction, asking if he has something he needs to tell him. Woonhui immediately turns his head away, wondering if he was maybe staring too blatantly, but decides that he might as well go for it, and he locks his eyes back with his father's, saying that he was curious why the branch family head is here. Hosen asks if there is anywhere in the Nine Dragons branch family that he cannot go. Woonhui says he was concerned they might have dirtied his eyes with their inadequate duel. Every single person there starts to feel very surprised and tense about the ways he's addressing his father. Even Kyujin tries to get him to stop it, and she looks really scared. Woonhui says it's no wonder they're acting like this, because he's just an abandoned bastard who is talking back to the head of the Nine Dragons branch family. But from his residual memories and from seeing him with his own eyes, he can tell that his father is a true man of the Tang clan, as we see him grinning. He says indeed he did not find the duel interesting whatsoever, and Woonhui wonders if that's really how a father should speak to his son. But Hosen then says still, he heard he had a change in personality and is better than he expected. As he's heading down the steps, he looks at Yu Chong, saying that it appears as if another one of his children is nothing but a disappointment. Yu Chong immediately looks down to the floor, feeling nothing but shame. He then calls for Gon and the boys, telling them that their reactions were slow, and they need to train themselves with more devotion. They all say yes sir, and he tells them to dismiss the audience and lead the house members and deal with the aftermath. Woonhui asks Kyujin why she looks so sad, and she says because they were still too weak to catch father's eye and gain his interest. She asks if he's okay, and he says that the Branch family had always been like that. After ignoring his second child for so long, he suddenly gained interest after he showed potential. As for the third born, whom he had helped for so long, his interest immediately vanished. Kyujin says she's sorry, and she shouldn't have asked, and she should have known he isn't fond of father. He changes the conversation, asking if she's hungry, and then suggests they go grab a drink together. That night at an inn, we see her drinking, saying that this is what life is about. He says that she drinks and eats like she has been starving for days, asking if they're not serving her meals in the Ching Cheng sect. She says they give her lots, but it's always grass and other yucky shit, and he says it must be one of those Taoist temple things. She beats the table, saying at her age she should be eating meat and drinking alcohol, and this is why he shouldn't become a stupid monk. He says sure, and pours her another cup, and she tells him to keep it coming. He says speaking of the Ching Cheng sect, he wonders what kind of person her eldest senior brother is. She starts to blush and asks him why he's bringing him up, and Woonhui says that she mentioned him in quite a few letters, so obviously he's curious, as he mentions how much she keeps talking about him, and she gets embarrassed telling him to stop it. He says that she mentioned he was coming to the clan head's visit as a guest from the Ching Cheng sect, and he should learn more about him and treat him adequately when they meet, but he says it in an evil tone. She readies herself, saying he's mastered the wicked tricks of the Tang clan, and she will beat him for this. He says the fact that the eldest disciple, Yi Chul-san is visiting is something to be careful of. There's a rumor that the Dark Sovereign's purpose for visiting is to find a new special martial unit like the Wild Wind Squad, and if that rumor is true, then countless sects around Sichuan will come to monitor or prevent that. That's also true for the Ching Cheng sect, which has had a long relationship with the Tang clan, and the fact that they're sending Kyujin's eldest senior to visit means they do not trust her, but she probably doesn't realize that. He then notices something and waves, and Kyujin asks if his drinking friend arrived, and we see it's none other than Gon, who says that he should have gone back to the training grounds, and Kyujin spits out her drink. Gon says he was impressed with her growth, as he didn't expect to see her manifest sword energy. Kyujin bows while thanking him, and uses sound transmission to ask Woonhui why he never told her that Uncle Gon was coming. He says that she never asked, and she calls him a brat, and quickly pulls out a seat for him. He then thanks her and says that they sure have ordered a lot more today, and he just hopes they didn't order in his name again. Woonhui asks if he can do that next time, and they bang glasses together, cheering, as Gon asks if he banged his head too hard in the fight. Kyujin is just surprised, asking him why he's being so friendly with Gon. He asks what she means, and she asks if he doesn't know what kind of person Gon is. They haven't finalized it yet, but he's basically Ho-san's sworn brother. He's rescued Ho-san from perilous danger during the bloody Ching Cheng battle, and the clan head personally gave him his warrior title. What a chat of a friend. Woonhui realizes this might be bad, and immediately calls out for Gon, calling him uncle, and Gon asks what's wrong. Woonhui says he didn't know about his relationship with his father, and apologizes for the great discourtesy he has shown him, begging that he'll accept his sincere apologies. Kyujin nods her head and tells him that was nicely done, and she's sure he'll forgive his transgressions. Gon looks absolutely disgusted, asking her what the hell he is doing, and if she taught him this. Woonhui starts laughing, and asks Gon what were the reactions of the other Wind Hall members. Gon tells him to guess how many points they gave him, and Woonhui holds out his glass, saying it must have been full points. Gon pours him his drink, saying he's too damn arrogant, and Woonhui asks if he's wrong, but Gon says that nah, he's just pissed he's right. Woonhui says he knew it. Because of the spar, he's earned the interest of the former squad members. The only issue left is Sanyong might be scheming something before the Dark Sovereign's visit. On cue, it jumps to Spidey, who wonders how much longer until they get to where they're going. He says he didn't expect them to get this far, because if he goes too far away, Woonhui might think he ran away and tried to kill him. The carriage finally comes to a stop, and Spidey wonders if they arrived finally. Somebody escorts Sanyong out of the carriage, and she says they came without informing the temple, so she wonders if the Templars are present. Spidey says if they're at a temple, this might be where the person who put the toxic cinnabar in Woonhui's medicine is. He starts to feel a very strong demonic dark energy, wondering who the hell she is collaborating with. As the door slowly opens to the gate, somebody exits thanking her for coming this far, calling her a follower. They say that the Master Templar informed them she was coming, and Sanyong says that their spiritual connection always surprises her. Spidey immediately recognizes that what she is talking to is not a living being, but a Jiangshi. Spidey says that it must be one with its past life, and since it has the ability to make judgments, that makes it an advanced Jiangshi. And since he's using an advanced one that most Fengxi practitioners find very tricky to create, as a mere servant, this isn't the simple residence of a trivial sorcerer. Although he's not sure if reporting everything he's seen thus far would be enough, doing the bare minimum also wouldn't be enough. He needs to satisfy Woonhui to the point that he will listen to his plea. We hear an old voice saying, I pray, please bestow upon me more divine decrees, as he's hitting his staff into the ground. The little Jiangshi from earlier tells him that Sanyong has arrived, and he says to let her in. Sanyong greets the Master Templar, who says that he sees she's returned because something hasn't worked out, and that she possesses far too much greed, and God only takes care of believers who can consistently submit themselves wholeheartedly. As they dislike the people who only appear when they need something, she asks what they would think about somebody who makes offerings in large amounts, so large that other believers could not even fathom it. The Templar starts to laugh, saying, well, of course, they would think it would be very cute, as we see his face for the first time, bro fugly. He asks if she likes the money as well, saying he knows he does. Spidey wonders if he's part of the Mao Shan sect, saying they're much more sinister than it should be. She says if successful, she'll bring another chest full, and the Templar says very good, as she knows how to earn the favor of God. The heir then gets very serious, and he asks her what he can help her with, and she asks if he remembers what they discussed before, and he says that she wanted him to brainwash the illegitimate child, saying that's already in progress. She says that the situation has changed, and she needs something faster and surefire. He thinks he knows what she wants now, and Sanyong says that she wanted to use him as a pawn she could throw away after the Dark Sovereign's visit, but Q Jin's behavior and the movements of Woonhui's backers could blow up on her face, and she asks the Templar to turn him into an advanced Jiangshi. He laughs, saying he must have really struck a nerve. Spidey can't believe what he's hearing, saying he needs to go notify Woonhui immediately, because if the Master Templar is capable of freely creating advanced Jiangshi, then Woonhui is for sure no match in his current state. As soon as he gets out, a whole lot of red eyes start glaring at him, and he recognizes that they are beast Jiangshi, saying that if they can control these types as well, he now understands that it's the Black Bone Ghost Valley, the offshoot of the Mao Shan sect that joined the Heavenly Demon cult. The Templar then tells Sanyong it seems like she had a pest attached to her, and she asks if she was being followed. The Templar laughs, saying that person uses a very unique sorcery to control the ghost, and the backer of the illegitimate child might be much more annoying than originally anticipated. She sighs, saying that she will contribute another treasure chest, and he laughs, saying okay. She tells him to make sure he earns what he's been paid, and turns that lowly bastard into a Jiangshi and exposes the backer. He tells her there's no need to doubt him, and now he should first chase after the backer that followed her all the way here. Something quickly appears behind Sanyong, as we see another Jiangshi asking his master what he needs. The Templar says he needs to chase after the escaped ghost and find the sorcerer behind it. The Jiangshi says yes sir, and immediately leaps out of the room, flying through the air, saying for even the beast Jiangshi to be unable to capture it, it must be quite a nimble pest. He puts his fingers to his mouth, and whistles, launching even more beasts forward. Spidey wonders what's with the eerie presence he senses, aka his Spidey senses are tingling, as we see him hauling absolute cheeks from all the creatures. As we see him in the jaws of one of their mouths, he just begs that Woonhui can run away, and then he gets chomped on. It jumps back to the White Pavilion, and Woonhui asks Q Jin if she's really not leaving. She says that she'll go home while she sobers up, and he sighs, saying that now that Yu Chong has been humiliated, Sanyong is going to go out of her way to harm him. He bets that Q Jin is conscious of that as well, and he tells her just not to be a bother. She tells him to continue with his training. Goatee says for being an ascetic of the Qing Cheng sect, she sure is an upright child. Baldy agrees, but wonders how Sanyong, who's so wicked, and somebody like Hosen had a daughter so kind. Woonhui smacks them over the head telling him to shut up, asking if they want to become pills already. Poor Dumpling caught astray. Woonhui then notices something, and Baldy asks if there's something wrong. He says something feels different from when he had the duel earlier, and they ask what he is feeling. He says there was a bit of a disconnect between his actions and movements when using martial arts, as if the cogs weren't fully aligned, and he thought it was because he was still a beginner, though he can still feel that disconnect is definitely lesser now. Goatee says that he was a famed instructor in the cult during his younger years, asking if he can inspect his body. Woonhui tells him to go for it, and we see Goatee starting to get a feel for what's going on, and he asks Woonhui if he knows the term cultivated energy. Woonhui asks if he means his inner energy, but Goatee tells him that it's a bit more specific than that. Woonhui tells him to explain it, and Goatee says that inner energy, even when going through the exact same training, builds up with different characteristics, depending on one's identity, constitution, and even their own understanding. Woonhui says that what he's saying means that his heart and mind got contained in the inner energy. Goatee says that's correct, and that's why martial arts, like the great absorption technique, which sucks out somebody else's inner energy, is unable to provide a large increase. Though he can't be certain, as Woonhui is a special case, between the cultivated energy that built up in the original body over 17 years and the energy that he has now cultivated hold different characteristics, which could be what is causing the disconnected sensation. Woonhui wonders what it means now that the disconnect is shrinking. Goatee says it likely means that his cultivated energy and the original Woonhui's cultivated energy are slowly harmonizing. Woonhui wonders if that means he started to accept his identity, and maybe that would mean he's starting to fuse with the original cultivated energy of the body. Since he has no choice but to live inside of it, he thought that it was his, but it seems that subconsciously he must have been thinking that this body belonged to someone else. But through this duel, it seems like he's gone from thinking of using martial arts through this body to just thinking that he's using martial arts. The emotions he's experienced by personally meeting Kyujin, who he's only known through memories, seems to be slowly breaking down that subconscious barrier. Woonhui asks him how far he thinks he's to so far, and Goatee says around 40%. Woonhui says that if he can continue to increase the fusion rate, and Goatee cuts him off saying that if he does so, he will be able to more easily attain a higher level of martial progress, and Woonhui says that's perfect. He then widens his stance, saying being one in body and mind is essential in sorcery as well. So the higher the fusion rate between the body and his soul gets, the more he will cover his mystic power from his previous life. Kyujin watches him train, saying that he's really changed a lot, and now he's full of confidence in focusing on martial arts, and she feels sorry that he's been forced to change. But he has now started to build up his own foundation, and it will only grow sturdier from now on. However, Sanyang will not just wait patiently and let Woonhui's foundation settle. Immediately, she starts to sense something as the blue ghost face root comes out, saying that something is here, and Kyujin says she knew it. Even Woonhui starts to sense it. When the elders ask him if this is what they think it is, he says that's right, it's ghost fog, and because of the composition of the toxic cinnabar, he knew they were a necromancy user, and they finally took the bait. Now he can't wait to see how big the fish actually is. We see the guy from earlier saying it's been a while since he's had a hunt, and if his master's prediction is correct, the one behind that bastard child uses a very unique form of necromancy. But that's the case, the tools they use must be just as unique. The traces on that spider were leading this way, so the caster must be inside. He laughs, saying he can't wait to start. He starts doing some Naruto hand signs, saying that the parasitic vulture and ghost fog are ready. The ghost fog will disrupt one's perception, and if he ties it with the bramble ghost fog formation, nobody outside of the fog will be able to know what is happening on the inside. As he makes his way through, he starts to look around, wondering where his prey is. He sees a purple thread going to Woonhui and wonders why it's connected to his second target. He says he must have been left behind, saying that the caster activated the technique by controlling the brat instead of directly using necromancy. We see Woonhui completely pretending that he's confused about what the fog is, saying he can't see anything. The Jiangshi says the mastermind is even more cunning than he thought, but this brat is still his target. If he captures him, the mastermind is bound to reveal themselves. It's not like he can see what's in front of him or do anything, thanks to the ghost fog, and if he stays still, he'll make him into an advanced Jiangshi with all of his limbs intact. But then he realizes somebody else has entered, as we see Kyujin slowly walking to him, and then her eyes glow for a split second, as she's immediately in his face, smiling. She grabs him by the throat and chases him away from Woonhui. Woonhui says this was as expected, not only did they send an unorthodox warrior, but a parasitic vulture as well. We then see Spidey in his ghost form, saying there's no doubt they are from the Black Bone Ghost Valley. Goatee then says he looks like a class 3, asking if things will go as planned. Woonhui says it's unlikely that a Qing Cheng Taoist would lose to a Jiangxi on equal footing, but the question is, will Qiu-jin hold back, or will she vanquish him as a Taoist? Right now, all they can do is trust her judgment as she slams him straight into the floor. He immediately recognizes it as the Qing Cheng sword key, saying that the only Qing Cheng Taoist in the family would be Qiu-jin, wondering why she is here. He quickly distances himself, calling out to her, telling her to wait a second and listen, but she asks why she would listen to a member of the unorthodox faction, telling him to die, calling him filthy. He puts his hands up to block her attacks, and he tries to create even more distance, and says that this matchup is terrible as we see his hands shaking. He says even if he wants to fight properly, if he ends up hurting her, the deal with Sanyang will be ruined even if he accomplishes his mission. If that happens, his furious master will torture him with anything he can. Before he realizes he's spaced out, Qiu-jin says that he picked the wrong time to do that, as she uses one of the Qing Cheng sword techniques, which we saw before, the sword of discharged lightning of extreme light. She starts cutting him up, making blood fly out all over, saying that he just has to die while laughing. But he realizes he's in a bad situation, and says if this is how it's going to be, then he just needs to accept it, and he tells her he was holding back because she's the daughter of Sanyang. Qiu-jin is surprised hearing her mother's name out of his mouth, and he continues, saying that it's her fault for not listening, as he starts to take the bandages off of his arms, and aura starts to come straight out of the forearms, forming some kind of blade. His legs also start to beef the hell up as he's using a ghostly amplification technique, turning him into an actual mass monster. Qiu-jin is nervous, realizing that this is actually quite bad. The Jiangxi swings his hand down, and she manages to block it, but of course, it seems like quite a heavy blow. He tells her that if she had just backed down, it would have been easier for the both of them, and he's only doing this in order to accomplish what Sanyang wants. Qiu-jin tells herself to lock back in, saying she already knew what her mother was doing, and she will capture him, find the one behind this, and stop her mother from continuing down the wrong path. The Jiangxi starts to feel disgusted at her Taoist aura, and says that she definitely is a stupid person for not taking the chance to back down, as he rears his fist back, punching forward, hitting the ground as she dodges away. He says it would have been better if she wasn't a Taoist, and if the fight drags on like this, he'll be at risk of being discovered by the righteous Wind Hall, even with the Bramble Ghost Fog formation. Plus, that cursed caster could show up at any moment, and the longer it goes, obviously the worse it'll be. Even if the ghost fog clears up, he needs to use the parasitic vulture, as his target is still the bastard son. The vulture immediately gets some kind of telepathy from the guy, and it immediately starts to fly away, and Dumpling says it seems as if the parasitic vulture has stopped emitting ghost fog. Woonhui says it looks like he was finally using the vulture, and he almost fell asleep waiting for this moment. Dumpling then says it might have been even better to let the girl take on the vulture while he fights the unorthodox warrior. As the vulture starts to descend, screeching directly towards Woonhui, Woonhui stares at it, asking why the hell it's screaming in the middle of the night, telling it to get on the ground now, as his eyes start to glow purple, as he's using his mystic arts called the Evil Ghost Advent, aka his magic eyes. The vulture feels a primordial fear, and immediately dives past Woonhui, directly into the floor, and Woonhui says that's not what he meant. The other ghost says it's a miracle it didn't break its neck, and it seems that its body is as sturdy as you'd expect from a parasitic vulture. Dumpling says they surely used rare materials and spent a long time making just one of these, and it just had to go up against Woonhui. Woonhui says they all seem pretty pleased with themselves, even though he's the one who did all the work, and he tells the bird to get up, and it immediately does so. He says he's going to give it two choices, asking if it'll fight the other Jiangxi, or if it plans to fight Woonhui. The vulture looks terrified and immediately leaps away, attacking the Jiangxi from behind. It wonders why it's attacking him and how he lost control of it. Then he realizes that must mean the caster is skilled enough to take control from him, and he didn't even sense them. Qiu-jin immediately jumps up behind him, laughing, saying if he lets his guard down like that, she won't hesitate to strike him down. As we see her cleave through him, we see that it was actually his arm that she managed to cut off, and the dude says he needs to retreat immediately once his arm hits the floor. He wonders why she's not doing anything else, so he asks her what she's doing, saying she could have killed him with an attack just now, or if she's showing mercy because of Sanyang. She starts to laugh, saying, as if, and it's so that he can thoroughly repent for salvation, and she's going to shred him to bits very slowly. He tells her that she's insane, asking how this is the face of a Taoist. The parasitic vulture does a drive-by, scratching the dude's eyes. He screams, looking at it, and Kyujin says that she doesn't know why the beast turned against him, but now is her chance to get rid of the remaining ghost fog, as she starts to use another ability called One Energy of Heaven and Earth. It's just her Taoist energy and uses a technique called the Evil Expelling Torrent. The guy then realizes that the ghost fog and his ghostly amplification technique have both been dispelled, so he needs to quickly find a way to escape. He says there's still a shred of the ghost fog remaining, which is his last chance, as he starts to channel aura into his hand. He slams it down into the ground, causing a minor shockwave. Kyujin blocks, thinking it's an attack, but instead, he immediately leaps backward, going to grab his arm. Kyujin and the parasitic vulture immediately chase after him, asking where he thinks he's going. The man senses something and decides to leave his arm behind as it starts to glow. Kyujin gets caught in the explosion, but she quickly regains her balance. We see the man cracking some kind of pill in his hand, and Kyujin leaps off the ground, dashing towards him, trying to stop him from doing whatever he is planning. As the blade gets closer to his face, we see it pierce some kind of fog instead of the man, as he's already gotten away. She says that things really went exactly as Woonhui planned. Back to the flashback before this all started, she tried telling him that it was a spell from the unorthodox faction, and he asked if she would mind assisting him. He started yapping to her, and we learned that he didn't want her to kill the Jiangshi to begin with, as he needed to extract the information from it. They may be a branch family, but there's still a manor of the Tang clan, and if it was capable of sneaking in here and setting up a ghost fog, it can likely use some formation sorcery. So it will likely use a return crystal to escape through the Hell Gate when in critical danger, and with his current skills, he has no way of beating the Jiangshi here now that it's set up a formation spell. But if she can make the Jiangshi escape outside of the formation spell, he can figure out who the puppeteer is that dared intrude upon the 9 Dragon Branch family. She says that if this really is about to happen, then it's probably an assassin hired by their mother, and he wonders what she'll do if she plans to side with her. Woonhui sits up, saying if that were to happen, that just means that he's a loser that lost in the battle of wits, and that is just the natural order of things. She says that for Woonhui, who would continually face his hardships, the Tang clan is nothing but a den of trickery and deception. However, she'll make him see that what he knows is not the only identity of the Tang clan. For that, she needs to work harder. The flashback ends with the derpy-ass vulture cawing at her, and she starts to go crazy saying that she can get rid of it. Leave the bird alone, lady. We then see where the other man has jumped to, as he's now regaining his footing, saying that he can't believe he failed his mission and had to flee. He can always reattach a new arm, but he's lost the parasitic vulture, and now the family is going to be on high alert, and his master will never tolerate this. He starts screaming, saying if only it wasn't for that damn Taoist. We then hear Woonhui saying that he should have gone further away, and he can't believe he stopped so close to the manor. The dude immediately freaks out because he didn't even sense his presence, but he recognizes Woonhui, wondering what he's doing here and how he followed him. He thinks he might have been instructed by the sorcerer backing him. Since they are capable enough to seize control of the parasitic vulture, they were likely able to figure out the location of the escape gate. Whatever the case is, this is a great opportunity, because if he can capture Woonhui, he can figure out the identity of the sorcerer and even retrieve the parasitic vulture. But we see in the reflection of his eyes, it's not about to go as planned, as Woonhui starts to release his ghost key. The man says that it must just be something that the sorcerer has lent him. He says the appearance is a bit hazy, but he wonders why the energy is so familiar. Woonhui says that he knows Sanyang was desperate, but how could she join forces with the Black Bone Ghost Valley when she's from the Namgung clan? The guy is surprised, asking how he knew that, and Woonhui asks him what he thinks. As his ghost key starts to form around him, the dude immediately realizes what's going on, and he says no way, as we see Woonhui slowly getting covered more and more by the aura, until it forms a robe, which we learn is called the Evil Ghost Battle Robe. Woonhui says he must be something of a veteran if he recognizes this, and everyone who was at the Black Bone Ghost Valley 10 years ago remembers it. It was the mystic armor the junior demon lord Woonhui wore when he intended to level an area. The man asks him how someone like him is in possession of this, and Woonhui asks him if the person in his memory was someone to answer such questions. And he has many things he wants to ask him. The dude says he'll never talk, and Woonhui says he may be saying that now, which is why they'll talk after he has been thoroughly pummeled. The Jiangshi says that if he really is the junior lord, then he risks dying in one shot. Woonhui clenches his fist, and starts to release an even more powerful aura. The Jiangshi wonders if it's going to be dark arts or the Ghost King's power. Woonhui immediately closes the gap, rearing his fist back. The Jiangshi is just confused at its martial arts, and is too confused to react, so he gets hit. straight in the face, and it low-key dents his head. He gets sent flying as blood starts to pour out of his nose, and he lands and hits a tree, sliding down against it. He manages to catch his footing, saying that was the wild wind dance. He wonders why he's using martial arts instead of dark arts, and starts to smile, which turns to laughter. He says that he's not the Junior Lord, as the Junior Lord can't use martial arts. He's a monster who could blow up an unorthodox warrior like him with a finger. As he keeps yapping, he says he doesn't know how he could have seen the Junior Lord's skills to imitate them. We see little portals open up as purple beams shoot out of them. They are called magic imprisonment chains. The dude says that the monster made this equipment himself, and Woonhui says he can't believe he missed. He wonders why he called him a monster instead of a genius. The man then starts to wonder if maybe it really is the Junior Lord, asking how he could still be alive and using martial arts. Woonhui says he can tell he's confused, wondering whether he's the man he knows or not, and asks him if he thinks he has the time to even debate this right now. The Jiangshi says he's right. If he drags this out too long, either the Taoist girl will come back or someone else will. And that being said, he can't just run away, as this bastard knows who they are, so he needs to shut him up. However, if he really is the Junior Lord, he doesn't know how that'll go. Woonhui sighs, saying he can't believe he's still not moving, asking if they really promote soft guys like him to unorthodox warriors, saying, given how he goes around with a parasitic vulture on hand, it looks like he can't even do a single thing right. The Jiangshi starts to get angry. Woonhui laughs, saying maybe he should just go back, and he wanted to get some kind of information, but there's no way a guy like this would know anything. The Jiangshi starts to get pissed, saying even if he has to burn through his lifespan, he'll make him regret that, as he dashes forward, screaming while attacking at Woonhui. Woonhui asks if he's finally in the mood to fight, as he lets him grab him by the face, and they get sent flying. He says he was trying to buy time and distance himself from the village, as it would just cause him problems if the Jiangshi got scared and ran. And he guesses it's time for him to try out the thing he didn't have a chance to do when dueling his sister. They start to fly directly into a cliff, actually smashing into it, caving a section of it out. The Jiangshi says that he was supposed to take the corpse with him, but he got too excited, and at least his mouth can rival the Junior Lord's, calling him a tier 1000 yapper. Woonhui then grabs onto his hand, saying now he can relax. When using the return crystal, he should be at least this far away to rest. The Jiangshi wonders why his attack didn't work at all, and Woonhui asks how he could carry his corpse back with an attack like that, when it was so half-assed. The Jiangshi pulls his hand away from him, wondering if it really is the evil ghost battle robe, saying that's not possible. He then uses his one arm and unleashes a barrage at Woonhui, who sits there tanking it. He wonders how his fist, which has been enhanced by overloaded demonic essence, isn't making even the slightest impact upon hitting him. Woonhui asks him if these are really meant to kill him. The Jiangshi rears his fist back for an even bigger hit, punching forward, and it makes a great impact, but we see Woonhui caught it. He says he's done testing his defensive capability. Now it's time for him to test out his attack. As he imbues his fist with aura, he punches the dude straight in the stomach, sending him flying backwards out of the cliff. Sending him flying backwards all the way out into the ground. The Jiangshi says that strike confirms it, and this dude is in the lower level. His attacks definitely can't hurt him. If he waits for the evil ghost battle robe to run out, he can win. Woonhui asks what he's laughing at, and asks if it's because his attacks feel weaker than he thought they would, or if he's thinking that he just has to hold out until the robe wears off. He says that since he chased after him, knowing full well that he's a black bone ghost Jiangshi, he wants the Jiangshi to think about if he really didn't prepare anything at all, or if he's just dumb because his brain is rotted like the rest of his body. The dude gets offended, saying he just keeps talking shit while relying on the battle robe, telling him to show what he's prepared then. And he starts to wildly swing at him, saying that he better do it before the effects of the robe wear off, and we see not a single attack has landed on Woonhui. He even tries to go for a kick, only to hit an afterimage, as Woonhui has leapt up behind him using the shadow step. Woonhui then kicks him in the back of the neck, but the Jiangshi is not fazed, saying that his attacks have no impact. Woonhui already knows this, saying that it's not possible for him to penetrate his defense yet, since he's an unorthodox warrior, but he still has a couple things he can try. He lands back on the ground, saying it's a bit of a shame, but he should probably just finish this fight off. We see Woonhui preparing the same attack he blocked Kyujin's sword ki with, but the Jiangshi doesn't seem fazed, asking if he still hasn't figured it out, that his attacks have no effect on him, as he just laughs while the attacks hit him. Woonhui dashes past him after finishing his barrage, but the dude still says that shit just tickles, and unlike his ghost battle robe, He doesn't have a time limit. He can hit him all he wants, as he'll suffer his payback soon. Woonhui lands from his dash, saying that he was worried he was going to evade and cause things to drag out, but it seems as if he is foolishly taking all the blows he can. But it makes sense, since he's a Jiangshi, and his brain is rotten. He says that now he's just yapping, since he's at a disadvantage, asking how long he's going to keep running his mouth. But then blood starts to fly out of his mouth and nose, and he says that these are the symptoms of poisoning, asking how poison can even affect him in the first place. Woonhui says that it's not a normal poison, and immediately the Jiangshi realizes it's a ghost poison. Woonhui thanks him for letting himself get hit, saying he packed it densely throughout his body, telling him to have as much fun as he wants. We see a bunch of ghosts fly out of his body, eating away from the inside. He does his best to pull them off, and they start to materialize, turning into straight nightmare fuel, completely eating away at his body, causing him to scream out very loudly until he drops to his knees, looking utterly defeated. Woonhui gazes down on him, as if he was looking at a bug, and the Jiangshi asks him to just answer one question, wanting to know if he's the junior lord. Woonhui stares down at him for a second, and then crouches down, saying that this isn't the end of him. As he holds out a chain, which is the magic imprisonment, the Jiangshi starts to shake, saying no way. Woonhui gets rid of his robe, telling the elders he's going to be heading out first, and to make sure to educate the new recruit so he obeys orders, as we see the elders now regaining their actual forms, saying that his wish is their command. What a cool scene. Woonhui walks away, confidently knowing that the boy's got his back. Woonhui says that was harder than he expected, and he guesses it's because he's not proficient enough to subconsciously use martial arts, so he's unable to use spells that require longer prep time. Once he gets more used to it, though, he can start working on his spell casting speed, and he guesses he just has a lot more homework from now on. He then senses something, saying that somebody's staring at him, but he wonders if somebody's been watching this entire time, wondering who it is and where they are watching him from, and we see it's none other than his father, Hosen. Woonhui sighs, saying that he gets that he's part of the Tang clan, but to not do a thing while watching it all. With how far away he is, he likely couldn't see exactly what he was doing, but he should have been able to see that he was fighting an intruder, and he calls him disgusting. Q Jin then calls out his name as she starts running over, and he says that she didn't have to come find him. Then he freezes for a second, as he sees her dragging the vulture by the neck as she asks him if he's hurt. He says no, but wonders what she's doing, and she says that she thought maybe she'd learned something, and she wanted to cut off its wings so it couldn't fly away, but its wings were tougher than she expected, and she couldn't cut through them. So instead, she just beat the hell out of it, and he says he should make sure not to anger her in the future. He bows, saying unfortunately he got away, and she worked hard to set it up for him, and he's sorry. Q Jin then says that she's sure they can figure out where the whereabouts of the other people are by beating up this Jiangshi. The vulture immediately hides, running to Woonhui, and starts to cry while seemingly begging him. Woonhui says sneaking in a beast Jiangshi of this size won't be easy, and we see the vulture start to glow purple as it quickly shifts to a smaller form that looks nothing like a bird. What the hell is this thing? Woonhui's surprised that it just knows spells, and then realizes something, but changes the conversation saying he's going to keep him in the white pavilion for now, and he's sure that she's tired as well so she should head back. She looks worried about something, but says that since the intruders ran away, she'll head to her room. And immediately turns around, but we see she has a whole different expression on her face. We then hear Woonhui asking somebody if their master is the neglectful white bone wraith. It's the dude from earlier who's bowing, saying that is correct. Woonhui says it's been a while since he's seen him, and the dude goes to ask him if he's ever met his master, but immediately says the dude's name instead. Woonhui says he knows him a little bit. He learned some dark arts from him in the past, though he ran out of things to learn after only a month. But on top of him, the fortunate Blue Bone Phantom, the awakened Crimson Spectre, and the immortal Green Devil are also here, which means that 4 of the 12 dark ghosts have set up near their county and are scheming something. Woonhui says for all 4 of them to be nearby, there's only one reason to have any interest in this county at the moment. It's the visit of the Dark Sovereign. Since he is one of the 10 Grand Masters under heaven, and with Moonhyuk's plan to establish a new special martial unit from their perspective of the cult, they can't just stand by and watch it grow. Normally they would plan on either planting a spy within the martial unit or making the unit smaller than the clan's ideal plan. But if that was all they intended, it would not call for the presence of 4 elders. Seeing as how they roped in Sanyong, their schemes are going to be far more grand and sinister, and the divergent organization that has seized control of the heavenly demon cult, aka the Society, They might be trying to increase the strength of the heavenly demon cult by pulling strings behind the scenes. Normally it would have been a ploy that would have been reckless and stupid, but now it could become a valid move, and it would be a plan that they could have never even dreamed of carrying out before, which means they are planning to assassinate the Dark Sovereign. All of the elders call him foolish, saying even having the 12 dark ghosts here are no match for the Dark Sovereign, as even the sect masters of the 9 great demon sects couldn't do a thing to him, since he is one of the 10 grand masters under heaven. Woonhui asks the Jiangshi if he and the White Bone Wraith are the advanced team. The Jiangshi says that he doesn't know the details, but he does know that reinforcements are coming in from the Tianshan Mountains. Woonhui is surprised and finally gives the dude a nickname of number 15, and asks him what he needs. Woonhui asks 15 if he knows anything about the society, and 15 says since he is a pretty lowly being, he doesn't know of which society he is speaking of. Woonhui says that's alright, which means that the orthodox warriors of the Black Bone Ghost Valley are too low on the totem pole. That means he needs to capture the geezer instead, aka the White Bone Wraith, to obtain information. The problem is that if he tried capturing him at his current level, he'd be absolutely defeated by his fortress of spells. Woonhui says that he guesses this is everything he can learn from number 15. Gon immediately enters the room asking Woonhui if he is safe, then says he was ordered by Hosen to summon him, asking why his yard is in such a bad state. Woonhui asks what he means, and 15 tells him that he thinks he's referring to the mess from the fight between him and Q Jin. Woonhui tells him to calm down as he'll explain it on the way, and this could be easily solved by borrowing the strength of Gon in the Righteous Wind Hall. But before that, he needs to take care of business, as we see his father waiting for him. Woonhui needs to figure out what he knows and how he'll act. Woonhui respectfully greets him, saying that he is graced by his presence, calling him the branch family head. His father wonders why he's still calling him the branch family head in private, saying he understood he did it at the duel, but he still wants to remain distant, even in private. Woonhui immediately drops formality, saying he apologizes as it's been too long since they've seen each other in private. Gon asks him if he's insane, saying he went through the trouble of boasting to Hosen, and yet he's dragging himself back down. Woonhui starts to smirk, saying it seems like he's been complimenting him, and it's going to make him blush, but Gon tells him that now is not the time to joke. Woonhui tells him to watch. He asks his father if he's intending to reward him for defeating the intruder. But he knows if he intended to reward him for defeating the intruder, he would have done it in a public setting, as what Hosen wants to check isn't something like a father-son bond. Rather, he wants to know how much Woonhui knows. Hosen says he seems to know exactly why he called him, and Woonhui says it seems he's already confirmed the identity of the intruder, along with their connections to the Grand Matriarch. Woonhui says it's only natural, as it is related to the clan head's visit, which means he must know about their plans to assassinate the Dark Sovereign. Hosen says the fact that he isn't surprised must mean that he also has figured it out, and he heard that he has recently turned a new leaf, but this goes far beyond that. His inner energy, foresight, strategy, and everything else is not something he could obtain in a year or even 2, and he must have been hiding within the deepest burrow he possibly could have, training in absolute secret, and he can't believe he's fooled even him for so long, and his wickedness is truly worthy of the Tang clan name. Woonhui bows, saying it may sound like an insult, but it is actually high praise within the Tang clan. Hosen tells him not to take it any further than this. Woonhui asks what he means, and Hosen says no matter what sort of war he and Sanyang wage against each other in the manor, he will not interfere, but he needs to not mess with the people backing Sanyang. Woonhui says he's okay with his son and wife having a messy fight over household disputes, yet he wants to leave the cult and a group of outsiders alone, and he wonders what the hell he's planning, calling him a wicked snake. Woonhui says okay though, and whatever his reason is, he cannot go after the White Bone for now, and Hosen says that since his business is over, he's going to excuse himself. Woonhui says that before he leaves, surely he should be rewarded for defeating the intruder. Hosen says judging by how he stopped him, he must want something specific, that he cannot obtain himself, telling him to ask for it, and Woonhui says he would like to train within the Twisted Forests, which we learn is a special environment full of poisonous bugs and bizarre beasts, and if he goes there, he can quickly recover the mystic powers of his past life. Hosen thinks about it, but tells him that only the clan head has the authority over that place, and he can make the request when he sees him, but he cannot make any promises. Woonhui says that it seems like the plan is a no-go. His father then says he can make up for that. As he reaches into his robe, he pulls out a butterfly, telling Woonhui that he can take this with him, as it sits on his index finger. Gon is surprised by it, and Hosen tells him to be quiet. Woonhui wonders what it could be and why Gon is so flustered by it. It doesn't look like anything more than a decoration, but maybe there's more to it. Hosen asks if it's not to his liking, but Woonhui says it is. He can't believe his father asked him that, yet he spreads his energy around so much that he can't approach. He's basically telling him to use some other means to take it. Woonhui tells 15 to get on it, and he immediately starts to fly in. The butterfly decoration then starts to move, which Hosen notices as it lifts up off of his hand, floating through the air straight back to Woonhui. We see Hosen even has a slight smirk on his face, and he says now it is his. He tells Gon they should get going, but Gon is actually freaking out internally. He quickly runs over to Hosen. Woonhui wonders what this is. Goatee says that from the looks of it, it might be a high-quality ornament, and Dumpling says that it might be some kind of assassination weapon. Woonhui squeezes them. Poor Baldy caught a stray and asks if he ever wanted their opinion, saying that they need to follow them. They immediately fly off, saying, "My bad." We hear Gon asking Hosen if that was really okay, saying that the blood butterfly is extremely precious to him. Hosen says that it is, but the Wild Wind Squad has disbanded, and it has been 20 years since the Nine Dragons branch family was established. Above all, Woonhui said he wanted to continue the Wild Wind. Gon says that now he understands why he handed it over to him, as he too must have had regrets for not being able to fulfill the hopes of the Wild Wind Squad. Gon says the other two children have seen it, but Q Jin and Yu Chong had no interest. However, Woonhui took the blood butterfly from him, even though he's not sure how he did it. He laughs, saying he supposes that he could say he took it with the wild wind. This is why he thinks that Woonhui could be the one to discover the secret of the blood butterfly. Back to Woonhui, saying he didn't even think about using the wild wind in the first place, and he asks if they ever mentioned what it actually was. They say no, but they do understand it's a precious item. We hear 15 from inside the butterfly saying every time it moves, it consumes an incredible amount of spiritual power. Considering the large amount it consumes, it looks to be some kind of magic tool. Woonhui wonders what exactly its use could be and tells 15 to get out of there so he can confirm it. He starts to pour his own aura into it, saying that since it belongs to the Tang clan, who don't specialize in spiritual power, he wonders how much it could possibly consume. As we see it starting to absorb his power, but then it just stops, leaving everybody confused. But Woonhui starts to get pissed, asking why it's such a pain to charge. As he starts to release even more aura, pouring literally everything he is into it, nothing happens, and they all sit there blankly again. He starts to scream, saying he'll just continue doing it until he can't. We see him in bed saying that he's been so pissed off about that damn butterfly that he wasn't able to sleep at all. If he can't figure out what it is, so he'll just leave it alone for now. As if the White Bone Wraith figures out about yesterday's failed attack, he will try something new. But due to Hosen's warning, it's difficult for him to act rashly, and he wonders if there's any way he can stop White Bone's plan without drawing the attention of Hosen. It's not like the answer will fall from the skies or anything, so he should just take his time. But of course, that's exactly what happens as that little bird guy comes back. He almost forgot about him, and he actually did fall from the sky. He looks down at him curiously, saying that the parasitic vulture is a powerful beast Jiangxi, but it's not strong enough to go up against many unorthodox warriors. So he needs to make it even stronger so he can use it. As he starts to make his own hand bleed, he says his blood will act as a medium and produce a special refinement item loaded with information about the Ghost King using his Reaper's Sight, otherwise known as the Ghost King's blood. All of the other Ghost Boys are surprised to see that, saying they can't believe they are envious of the beast. As their forms start to break, Goatee yells at them, saying they need to lock back in. Since it was loaded with information about the Ghost King, it is an exceptional elixir for those associated with ghosts. Woonhui asks the little bird if he wants it. It, of course, does, and he asks him why he should give it to him, as it hasn't given him anything yet. If he tells him where the black-boned ghost beast's Jiangxi farm is, he'll give it to him, but wonders if he'll even give it to him. Birdie immediately starts headbanging, and Woonhui says that's good enough, giving him the treat. Bro immediately transforms from his cute self to the ugly bird form. He starts screeching while absorbing the power, and we see his feathers being grown anew as his facial features start to change too. All of the Ghost Brothers notice this as the bird is transformed from a vulture to a whole different creature. They say, according to the rumors, this wicked beast is the lucky bird that serves as the drum of war, announcing the advance of the demonic fiends called the Jah. Woonhui asks Birdie how it feels to be born again, saying it looks like this body is more useful than a spider's. We see a ghostly figure looking at his hand, and it's none other than Spidey, who's surprised by what's going on. Goatee's so happy that Spidey wasn't killed. We learn Spidey's name is actually Huan. Huan asks Woonhui why him, and Woonhui says that he has 3 reasons. First, as a reward for his loyalty, the moment that those bastards who were running away from him died, they were cursing him out, but he was different. The second reason is because he expected him to ensure the safety of his daughter. Huan's surprised by that, and Woonhui asks how he's supposed to guarantee the safety of his daughter when he doesn't know what she looks like. Instead of making him find time to spare, he should go find her himself with his own hands. Huan's completely taken aback, and Woonhui says that the third reason is because he'll understand a ghost's words more easily than a bird's. Huan wishes he left that part out. He says that he thought he had been freed of his restraints, and it seems like he cannot truly be free from the Junior Lord. He says that after losing his wife, he had but one goal, which was his daughter. The moment that Hajin kidnapped her was the moment his life crumbled. In the end, even though he betrayed both the cult lord and Woonhui, he wasn't able to protect his daughter, but now that opportunity has returned to him. We finally learn his title is the Resentful Demon. He says he pledges loyalty to him and that he will follow him until the end of time, all due to the second chance that Woonhui has given him. What an absolute Chad. Woonhui asks him if the vulture's memories remain, since if they do, he will know where the farm is. Huan says he will immediately fly there and tear those guys apart with his newly attained beak and talons. Woonhui tells the resentful demon to head out and destroy the farms and notify those traitors of the divine cult's advance. Huan says, "As you command," and immediately flies out of the house. Woonhui says once he begins to destroy the farms, White Bone won't have time to pay him any mind, and he can buy time this way. Man's Huan. We see a carriage pulling back up to the estate as it's none other than San Yang, saying traveling through the night sure is tiring. She then sees a report from Mu Yang, which is the budget Hyang Sam, and she says that since the corner is folded, it means it's urgent. She reads that Yu Chong sparred against the bastard and that Woonhui actually managed to win. He even fought off against Q Jin, and it was a draw, and that it all happened within the presence of Hosen. She wonders just how this all happened, but before she can get too lost in thought, Q Jin screams out her name, asking where she has been. San Yang panics and quickly changes the conversation, asking what she's doing here so early, saying that she just had some urgent matters outside. Q Jin wonders if she can't discuss what she was doing out there with her, but tells her anyway that a Jiangxi trespassed into the Nine Dragons branch family and attacked Woonhui last night. San Yang feigns ignorance, asking how such a terrible thing could happen. She then says that the one she saw yesterday must have dealt with the bastard, and it's unfortunate, but at least the bastard is now gone. However, Q Jin then tells her that she fought against it, which catches San Yang completely off guard. She asks why she would fight it in the first place and if she's hurt anywhere. Q Jin says she's fine and that the intruder brought her up and hesitated to face her. San Yang starts to feel stressed, asking how they could cause such a mess, and says that she does everything for her, but it's not for her sake, and the bastard is nothing but a hindrance in their lives. Q Jin asks if she really hates Woonhui that much, so much that she'd hire a Jiangxi when her own daughter trains in the Guangcheng sect. San Yang starts to feel scared, but Q Jin turns around, saying that if she has no intentions to stop walking down the wrong path, then her daughter will be the one stopping her. San Yang's voice starts to break as she calls out to her, and she starts to have a complete mental breakdown, asking why Q Jin doesn't understand that this is all for her. She falls to her knees, letting out a blood-curdling scream, saying it's all that bastard's fault, and she should have crushed him a long time ago. She says she'll go straight back to the temple immediately, as this is the only path for Q Jin's sake. Back to the boys out on the town, we see Gon telling Woonhui that he sure has guts, asking if he really has to go outside today even after getting attacked last night. Woonhui says if he's going to keep complaining, he should go back to the estate. Gon says he cannot, as he must follow the family head's orders. Woonhui tells him to stop complaining, and they get to where they're going, which is none other than a place called Lueben's Forge. Woonhui says he must be quite confident in himself, naming the forge after the god of Taoist skills and craftsmanship, aka the first sacred master craftsman. Woonhui walks inside with Gon, and they ask if the master is here. One of the workers recognizes Gon, saying that the master is in the back. The master then comes out, asking if the wild horse is here, and Gon says he's glad to see him. He introduces Woonhui to him as the blacksmith's owner, named Tang Chuk Yang. Woonhui tells him it's an honor to meet him and goes to say who he is, but Chuk Yang asks if he's the stubborn blockhead's second son. Woonhui is a bit taken aback but says yes, and he heard he's known Hosen since the Wild Wind Squad era, but to call him a blockhead is a bit rash. Chuk Yang then tells Gon that he's sure he didn't bring him all the way here just to introduce him. Gon laughs, saying it's just as Woonhui says, there's something he wishes to be made. We see Chuck Yong has an arm made of metal, and he says Woonhui must have not been satisfied with what the Nine Dragons branch family had and came here instead. He says he'll make it for him if he can just leave the blueprint here and go back home. Woonhui looks over, saying he sure does have a lot of commissions. He's not surprised, as plenty of the Tang clan members asked to get their weapons inspected to prepare for the Dark Sovereign's visit, and he bets that he would have been turned away at the door if Gon wasn't with him. He tells him that his blueprint is quite complex, so he may need his presence to explain it to him. Chuck Yong asks if he thinks it's his first time making something for the clan members, calling him a brat. Since no matter how boldly he's drawn it, he can craft any assassination weapon to perfection. Woonhui says that he's not actually commissioning an assassination weapon but rather just a sword. Chuck Yong goes to ask him if he's going to become a Taoist like his sister, but Gon immediately starts screaming out sword and starts shaking the absolute piss out of Woonhui, asking if they came all this way to commission a stupid sword and not an assassination weapon, and demands to know the reason. Woonhui dies, the end. He tells Gon that he asked him to introduce him to a skilled craftsman, and he never said anything about commissioning an assassination weapon. Gon says that it's true, and he starts to cry. Woonhui says now he feels sorry for him. Chuck Yong says that the wild horse must have high expectations of him. He tells him to come on in the back, as he wants to see his blueprint up close. Woonhui lays it down on the table, saying he wants to remodel this black sword into this new design. Chuck Yong's surprised, and Gon asks what kind of sword it is. When Gon takes a look, all he sees is that it's a steel folding fan, but Chuck Yong tells him it's actually a sword. Woonhui says that he's much more skilled than he expected to find it immediately, and Chuck Yong says that using wires is quite interesting and deceptive, to be honest. Woonhui says he's grateful that he finds it so interesting, and Chuck Yong says he's not here for the flattery, telling him to come over and explain this outrageous sword to him. As they start doing it, Gon watches from the other side of the table, as do the ghost boys, saying they never knew that Woonhui was so knowledgeable about such devices, as they can't even follow the conversation. Goatee wonders why a sword would be made in the shape of a fan. Baldy says that they're even going to put gunpowder into it, and he wonders if any of them have seen a sword like this, saying it might be a secret weapon of the Tang clan. They start to float around Gon, who's also completely lost about the conversation, but he's pretending he understands, the best character in the series. Chuck Yong says this is quite an egregious sword, and Woonhui laughs, saying there's just too many things he wishes to do with it. Chuck Yong says that it appears he's going to have to do this one personally. Gon is surprised by this, and Chuck Yong says that this device, the sly snake of a boy wants to build, isn't something his disciples can even handle. Woonhui says now's the time, and he immediately goes into the most formal bow you've ever seen, saying that it's a true honor to be able to showcase a sword made by a master craftsman like him during the clan head's visit. Chuck Yong says there's still 20 days until he comes, and Woonhui asks if he's not going to be able to meet the deadline. Chuck Yong tries to tell him that his schedule is busy, and Woonhui says that he sees that it must just be impossible for him to complete, and he's sorry, starting to bait him. Chuck Yong completely falls for it, saying that he is Luoban incarnate, and 15 days is more than enough for him to make this sword. Woonhui laughs, saying that's why they call him Sir Luoban. Gon and the ghosts all understand that another one has fallen to his petty tricks. Outside, Woonhui says that he's glad that Chuck Yong is more talented than he expected and that Huan must be destroying the beast farm right now. And there's only one thing left. He then hears Q Jin calling out to him, and he asks her what's wrong as she looks a little down. She says there's something she must ask him. He says that he can sense the bloodthirst of the blue ghost face root and that she is extremely distressed, enough that she can't control the teachings of the one energy of heaven and earth, and he can already tell what this is. Q Jin says this may be a weird question but wants to know his opinion on the past. Specifically, she wants to know whether he bears any grudges or emotions similar to that. Woonhui asks if she's trying to grasp the wind, which confuses her, and he says they can temporarily contain it but cannot grab a permanent hold of it because once it stops moving, it is no longer the wind. He asks her what's so important about the past as there are so many things he has to do and wants to do right now. He says the future matters so much more than the past to him. Turns out the metaphor was well received, and she starts to smile, saying she understands, and thanks to him, she's made up her mind entirely. She says that now there's something she has to do, so she won't be around for a while. She walks past him and leaps off, leaving him there. The ghosts say they can't believe that she would get so enraged, and Woonhui lets out a sigh, telling them to stop yapping and go keep an eye on her, but he only needs 2 of them to do it. He's sure that Q Jin had a big argument with Sanyang, and that's the only reason she could be like this. Sanyong won't remain still if they're having such a heated argument with their daughter. In that case, it's time for him to prepare for some unwelcome guests. Back at Hosen's quarter, the assistant is telling him that Woonhui is requesting an audience. We see Gon there, surprised, and Hosen tells them to let him come in. Once inside, Gon starts asking him what he's doing here using sound telepathy, and Woonhui says he wants to pay respects to his father as a son. Gon tells him if he's only here to yap, he should just leave. Woonhui says he's still a young master, so that's quite a bit harsh of an attitude, and Gon laughs, asking how about he does something to truly deserve his honor. Hosen then gets to the point, asking what he's here for. Woonhui says he's here to discuss the matter he spoke of the other night, and he wants to make a trade. Hosen thinks about it and calls out to Gon. Gon says as he commands, then immediately vanishes, as do other people in the rafters, and Woonhui wonders how many people there are to begin with. Hosen says that by involving himself in this matter again, a problem may arise in the progress of the Tang clan's plans, so he will need a good reason to persuade him. Woonhui says he felt it on the practice grounds, but this is not the energy a mere branch head should have. He also just mentioned the Tang clan's plans, so they must be planning something. Average Sherlock Holmes moment. Hosen says if he wants to make a trade, they must give and receive something of equal value, asking what he can give him. Woonhui says he doesn't have anything he can give right now, but he promises that he will. Hosen wonders what he means, and Woonhui says he will protect his big sister Kyujin. Surely his father knows what kind of people Sanyong has formed ties with. Hosen's silent for a second, and then uses sound telepathy telling him to speak freely. Woonhui says this must mean there are still people hiding, and he says that if their relationship between Sanyong and the demonic cult is exposed, Kyujin and Yuchong won't be able to escape the aftermath, as they will be labeled lackeys of the demonic cult, and surely Hosen himself knows that that's how it will go, and how those people have been treated so far, as they won't ever be able to step foot anywhere around here again. Hosen says that he's the one who has led the Wild Wind Squad at the vanguard to stop the demonic leader, so who would be able to label his children as demonic cult lackeys? Woonhui says of course they would behave normally in front of him, however the world doesn't overlook fault so easily as that, therefore he will ensure that such a label does not get put on Kyujin. Hosen says setting aside how he would even carry out such a promise, what is it that he wants in the first place? Woonhui says that since his involvement in this matter would be by no means small, he wants to take an active role in his plan. Hosen asks if he believes himself capable enough to be added to the plans. Woonhui says he will prove it. Woonhui says the words White Bone Wraith, and that he will bring the head of one of the demonic leaders here himself. Back to the geezer, we see him praying, as Sanyong's back again, asking how he handled her matter so carelessly. Even though she's given him so much money, he calls out to her in a calm tone, and she asks if he understands that her daughter said she would take care of her. He then yells out her name, which startles her a little bit, and he says he also feels that his judgment was poor seeing how it turned out like this, and he also lost a disciple, so he will not stand idly by anymore. She can be at ease as he will head out himself. Then the small Jiangxi from before comes in screaming his name, and he asks what she wants, and she tells him it's an emergency. The White Bone Wraith sighs, telling Sanyong to please take a seat and wait, as it can't be helped. She says she's not happy about being bullied, but his skills are the real deal, and since he said he would head out himself, then the bastard should be finished off this time. She then hears him screaming as he was just informed about his beast farm being attacked, and even though his farm was operating completely within secret for decades, a single bird with the same spiritual base as the parasitic vulture he made came back to his own farm and single-handedly wiped out every single beast he had raised thus far. Sanyong asks what in the world happened that he's so worked up, and he calls her a bitch while reaching for her throat. As he starts choking her, he slams her straight to the ground, saying that she dare trick him, and there is a high-ranking sorcerer with enough authority to take a vulture he made and evolve it. She really expects him to believe that they sided with a lowly bastard within the Tang family, saying that is completely absurd. She must have conspired with the sorcerer to stab him in the back. She says that she has no idea what he's talking about, and he starts to release a deathly aura, asking if she's genuine or just pretending, asking if she thinks so little of him, even though he's a member of the Black Bone Ghost. That's the first time she's hearing of this, since she can't believe that he's a part of the demonic cult, as she thought he was just some quack. The White Bone Wraith can tell just by how surprised her face is that she doesn't actually know anything, and that the Namgung family must have intended to use her and throw her away. He lets go of her and says that he had a brief misunderstanding, and he can't believe she really didn't know. She then starts to understand that this means she formed ties with a demonic leader, and she was introduced to this by the orders from her own family, which means that the Namgung clan has formed ties with the demonic leaders. He then asks her if her second child is home, saying now that he thinks about it, even his name is similar to a piece of shit that he knows, and even without her request, he has now a reason to tear apart both her son and the sorcerer supporting him, asking if she will help him. It then jumps to her saying that she has made a mistake, as we see she's talking to Woonhui, asking if he would like anything as an apology, as she'll give him whatever he wants. He seems really smug, saying that this is so sudden, and he can't believe that she's apologizing. She says she doesn't want to do this either, but it's part of the demonic leader's order, as he told her that they need to make sure that they drop their guard, so she should go get some kind of favor with her bastard child. And she asks why she would do such a thing, and he says that he guesses it can be helped, and he'll have to convert her into an advanced Jiangshi and make her do what he wants. She tells him to wait, saying she'll do it, and she says that she needs to do whatever she can to get on Woonhui's good side and catch his backer, and while it's humiliating, she still wants to live. He says that she sure is acting rather fearlessly, and then uses sound telepathy, saying that he supposes she's afraid that the branch family head will find out that she has formed ties with the demonic cult, and she sweats nervously asking how he knew, and she can tell he's not just saying things either, as his eyes are full of certainty. She starts to shiver in fear, saying that she only just now found out they are demonic cult members, so how in the world did he know? Woonhui then starts to completely overwhelm her, saying that she seems to be very flustered. He starts to walk towards her, and she says that she thought that the backer he's been with for the past few months was the one controlling him, but those eyes of his are not the eyes of someone who would be controlled by anybody. And while she doesn't know whether or not his backer offered him aid, the one running the show the entire time has been none other than Woonhui. However, if he still has only a shallow understanding of everything, she can try to play it off, so she tells him she has no idea what he's saying, and he says that this means she would have no problem with him telling the branch family head. He starts to use sound telepathy again, saying if he starts with the Righteous Wind Hall's investigation, the information about the strange shrine she visited often will come out, and all the items in storage related to her family's clan will come to light. He says that that sounds fun, as who knows what the Namgung clan would say about all of this. She realizes that they would completely exile her, as they would say they didn't know she had formed ties with the demonic cult, and she would be the only one taking the fall, and it is completely feasible that the Namgung clan would do that to her. Her voice starts to shake, and she says that she is still the matriarch here, so there's no way she can be disposed of so easily. Woonhui laughs, saying even if she is the grand matriarch, it seems she can't be honest with herself, and she asks him what exactly he wants. He then starts to grin ear to ear, saying there's quite a lot of information that he would want from her. We then learn that over the course of a week, Sanyong showered him with all sorts of treasures, such as a heavenly silk robe, some gauntlets, some boots, and other shit. To purchase these rare items in such a short time, Sanyong had no time to scheme, and as a result, he is now dripped out from head to toe. He says that the Namgung clan is really rich, and even after extorting so much, they still have a lot left. The ghost boys say that it must be pretty nice to be covered head to toe in such rare items, and that she must be close to bankruptcy. They say she's a fool for picking a fight with the junior lord, and Woonhui says they shouldn't be the ones to talk, as they did the same thing. But these items will definitely help a lot. But this is the most important thing he's got, as he pulls out a green orb, and they can immediately tell it has a lot of poison energy, asking what it is. He says it's a medicine he created by mixing some wilting fungus and toxic flame herb with white life oil. They say that looks like actual poison, asking if he's attempting to level his Venom Dragon Essence art to 6-star. Woonhui smiles, saying that's right, as he's going to open up his middle dantian and rise to the peak stage. As he heads outside, he says that the wilting fungus is often used as an ingredient in elixirs, but incorrect usage can make the toxic fungus grow and kill you from the inside out. To enhance that toxic growth, he combined it with a toxic flame herb and white life oil, making this pill's properties incredibly poisonous. For someone who practices the Venom Dragon art, there is no better elixir. The ghosts say they understand his intentions, but it might be too poisonous even for him, asking if he's sure he can handle it. He sighs, saying that's why he also procured this, which is the divine Azurite medicine, an elixir said to boost one's inner energy, which was made by the divine doctor of life and death. He swallows it, saying he'll first use this to level up his inner energy, and now that he has pure energy flowing through his mind, it is time for him to use the next thing, which is the wilting fungus thing he made. As the elders said, the poison would normally be impossible to digest. With his Venom Dragon art being at the level it is, he will surely experience intense and sufferable pain unlike anything he has ever felt before. As we see it swirling around his lower dantian as he is slowly starting to absorb it, he screams out in pain while making a strained face. The poison ki starts to erupt from his body, sending the ghost flying backwards, and they can't believe it's exuding so much, asking Woonhui if he's okay. Woonhui says that the fungus poison is exploding through his whole body, and he needs to take it and convert it into energy for his venom dragon art. As we see it all coalescing into his lower core until it's condensed into one ball, he says now he has to use this energy and bring it straight up to his upper dantian, which is his heart. An orb starts to form there as the aura immediately shifts to a purplish hue, different from the green one we saw before, showing that he succeeded. He sighs out of relief, saying he actually did it, as he has now achieved the 6-star venom dragon art. All of the ghost boys start congratulating him for reaching a new stage, saying that his growth is unparalleled. Woonhui says though still small, he can feel the essence has taken hold in his middle dantian, and he endured the 5 dragons crossings, reaching the peak stage. We then see Gon leaning over the wall, saying he heard a loud sound and came running worried, but turns out that wasn't the case, and he asks Woonhui what he did this time. Woonhui says he ate an elixir that his father gave him. Gon says he doesn't know which elixir that was, but he bets that he definitely ripped her off, and whatever the case, he's sure that he's itching to find out how much stronger he's grown. Woonhui immediately starts releasing his aura while holding onto his staff, saying he truly has a good martial instructor, and he leaps forward, saying he won't refuse the offer and he'll go all out. As he readies his weapon, Gon says that it's crazy he can already imbue his weapon with ki, and they trade blow for blow right in the middle of the arena. Gon says that Strike had quite some power behind it, asking if he can handle this as he thrusts his staff forward. Woonhui says that Gon's movements used to be impossible for him to follow, but now he can see them clearly, and on top of that, he can move his body more freely as well, as we see him advancing through Gon's barrage, saying this is the clear difference between stages, and he can now share the same sight as his instructor, and by imbuing his weapon with even more ki, it means that he can take every one of his techniques to the next level. Gon immediately recognizes that he's using the 12 fierce tiger steps with the spear, and does his best to block the attacks as it's Woonhui's turn to release an onslaught. Gon does manage to block it, but it causes him to have to create some distance, but he manages to catch his footing, saying that he guesses he can't half-ass it any longer, and Woonhui says he already told him he was going to work him to the bone. Sometime later, after their sparring, Gon asks if he's heard the rumors that's been circulating, and Woonhui asks what he means. He says that it's the rumor that he and Sanyong have made peace, and they're even saying nonsense like he's been given up on becoming the heir, so he has been blessed by Sanyong. He asks what's wrong with that, saying maybe he does plan on giving up on it for the harmony of the family. Gon asks if he even knows what that word means, saying that the rumor stems from all of the gifts she is giving him, but he knows that no such thing could happen between them. Woonhui starts to use sound telepathy, saying he can't say that he's wrong, but he needs Sanyong to act that way, so it's easier for him to go after the White Bone Wraith. Gon asks who that is, and then recognizes it, asking him if he means the neglectful White Bone Wraith, one of the demonic leaders of Black Bone Ghost Valley. Woonhui asks if he didn't hear from Hosen, and Gon goes to tell him, but Woonhui says he must have dozed off in the meeting. Gon says that now he understands that Woonhui must have figured out that she's connected to them. Woonhui compliments him, saying even though he acts like a bum most of the time, he becomes serious as soon as the cult is mentioned. Gon asks how he plans on fighting them when they fortify their bases with spells, and Woonhui asks if he means the Mystic Ghost Formation. Gon says that means he's aware, and within that formation, advanced Jiangx has become even more powerful. And to tell him the truth, even if he went all out, he's not confident he could defeat a demonic leader inside of that formation. Woonhui says he knows, and if they fight them head on, there will be immense losses. According to the information spilled by number 15, the temple forces are composed of 4 unorthodox warriors and a spirit class warrior created by White Bone, and White Bone is said to have achieved a higher stage not long after his death, as the society likely bestowed him with power. Gon then asks what his plan is, saying surely he has won. Woonhui says of course, as the final piece is about to fall into his hands, so he just has to be a chill guy and wait. That night, we see Sanyong begging for him to save her on her knees, and he says that since she's here in the middle of the night, a bystander might assume that he's the one trying to kill her, and he can see that she's having a hard time, thanks to both the temple and the Namgung clan. She says that's right, and he knows the situation she's in, as we see she looks completely exhausted and drained. She tells him that the demonic leader is threatening to turn her into an advanced Jiangshi if she doesn't bring him clues about the sorcerer backing him. At this rate it is going to be bad for her, and Woonhui says that it's definitely not going to be a pleasant death. She says she'll do whatever he wants, no matter what it is. Woonhui then asks her if she will give up the air seat that she has been putting so much preparation into, and we see her obviously taking a bit of a blow from this, but she tightens the grip on her clothing, saying of course, and that she will convince both of her children to give up on succession, and she'll even seclude herself and never appear in front of him again, begging that he save her. He says fine, but she needs to make sure she listens to him. She says she'll do anything so long as she can be rid of the demonic leader. Woonhui then smiles, saying this is what he wanted, and that there is something else he needs her to prepare for. The final piece is up to Woonhui, as he needs to pull a Luigi Mangione on White Bone.